see an ever-changing news and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 131 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you have not listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we start our look at September 1989. And the first batch of games reviewed in issue 53 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. Graham, the games are getting fewer, but is the quality getting higher? Please inform us.
Welcome, Watchers of Illusion, to the Castle of Confusion. In this exciting, fun-packed episode where we shout directional commands at someone to put bread in a bag, we go into yellow bird mode and head on a quest to rescue a bunch of our cute Kiwi friends from the clutches of an angry walrus. Yep, it can only be the C64 version of the New Zealand Story. We also see exactly how many crap C64 developers it takes to ruin an Oscar-winning animation franchise in Tom and Jerry, Hunting High and Low, and then get our gang of phonetically named operatives together to storm an embassy and rescue some folk in the sneak and seek game, Hostages. Before we shout caution team and encourage someone to hold up a lamp of remembering to ward off a giant toad, we also tune up our engines, get our co-pilot in the passenger seats and head out for some micro-car dirt racing in the nifty but miles per gallon challenged Rally Cross Simulator. We time travel to 1984 and the potentially IP-infringing world of the armed vehicular helicopter vigilante in the pre-elite game Blue Thunder, before finally exploring the deep science fiction marketing spin and lofty claims of yet another shoot-'em-up in the deja vu-strewn Dominator. At least one of these games is making grand claims about being a whole new game genre, and one is a fork in the eye of classic animation. I didn't even know rubbish nonsense was a genre type, but it is. There's always hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
Don't know if that's the same thing I said last month. It probably is. I can't remember.
We say
these
it every
days.
month. Say it every time.
It just put me on loop. Just insert different bits. Hello and welcome to episode 100.
Yes.
In
this episode, we hope the games are better than in the previous episode or other.
Yeah. How have you been anyway? Been all right?
Yeah, all functional. Yeah, busy.
It's always busy. It's always busy with podcast and work. It's busy,
It's the run up to Christmas time now, isn't it? So it's been busy with Christmas things. Christmas, we're still on the countdown now, really, officially. So.
We are not much. Yeah, I've got 2 big birthdays coming up. 3 actually. 3 big birthdays for Christmas.
What, yours? You were only born once. Don't try and claim 3, you claimer.
No, I've got my brother, my partner, and my son, all before Christmas.
They're all the same person, though.
Yeah, unfortunately they are, yeah. But it's like, it's the alternative trinity for Christmas. The brother, the partner, and the holy son.
Yes, well, if they're all Decembers, you see, that's what happens.
2 in November, 1 in December.
Oh, okay, that's not so
But they're all between now and Christmas, that's the thing.
Yeah, you just get them little things. Obviously, Christmas presents are different, but...
Yeah, true. Just get them little things, yeah. Watch the disappointment in their face.
Exactly.
That's the real joy of giving presents, is to see how much they don't like it.
What have you got me this year? Pack of cards, some kind of metal puzzle, and did you just open the Christmas crackers? No.
No. Snap. Right. Before we go any further, Graham, we've got to look at a cover.
We have, yes, the old coveroo, yes.
It is. This is Zap C64 Amiga issue number 53, £1.25, US dollars, $4.50. They stopped selling it in Germany. Obviously, it must have stopped a while back because they no longer have the German price on there.
Oh, yes, US. I didn't know they sold this in the US, but they do.
Yeah, they do. But what do we think of this cover? It's the Untouchables, the game that's not in the magazine.
The Untouchables part, it's okay. It's okay. The rest of it is a bit of a text-ridden nightmare mishmash.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work.
It's a bit all over the place, isn't it? So the top half of this is like a what is it? It's kind of a very yellow and black and goldy coloured sort of Untouchables pastiche, or not. It's not the film.
So what's the colour? Sepia, isn't it? It's meant to be a sepia variant, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sepia. It's not the film. That's not Kevin Costner. That's not Sean Connery. That's not him with the glasses, and that's not Andy. What's his face?
No, that's definitely not Andy. What's his face? Is it Sean Canary though? It could be his.
It is his non-union Welsh Welsh alternative. Sean Canary. It's Cabin Bosner.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Andy Garcia.
I could be wrong.
It's not Andy Garcia.
And it's not. And the weapons that they're shooting, I'm pretty sure they're not Prohibition era weapons, but what do I know?
I don't know. There's a shotgun. I don't know about those pistols. There's a revolver pistol, but I'm not sure about the two on the end.
The one at the back's got an automatic, which I'm not sure they had those.
No.
This is the era of the Tommy gun.
Yeah. Revolvers, Tommy guns, and shotguns, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. So an automatic, semi-automatic pistol, a Beretta. He's time travelled, that one.
Well, it could very well have done. But this is Untouchables don't actually get reviewed for 2 months yet. It's in November.
Is it a preview, man? I guess it must be a preview.
Yeah, it is a preview. I mean, New Zealand Story, they've got License to Kill, Rainbow Islands in this. I think there's plenty of opportunity to have done a big... I mean, I would have liked to have seen Rainbow Islands and New Zealand Story as the cover. I think those two games would have made a good double bill of happy cheeriness.
Well, even License to Kill could have been something. The thing is, I think what there is, and this is something that I've noticed since it became C64 Amiga, there's too much to try and review. So the covers have just become a bit nothing because they've just got so much text and so much varying iconography from all the different games that are inside. I mean, look how many games are mentioned on that cover. No wonder that the covers become a bit of a mishmash, and tonally, it's just a bit nothing, really. I mean, I know it's Untouchables, but is it though?
Yes. I guess it. I mean, it is, but it shouldn't be. Give it 2 months, then you can have your Untouchables. You've done your Batman cover. Then we had Batman last month, didn't we? And that wasn't. Yeah. That's not till November either.
And I'd get the feeling that Ocean may have sponsored that cover with the
Ocean's Coming mega hits.
Yeah, and Ocean's Big Screen Entertainment. Ocean's Coming mega hits. Ocean. Did we mention Ocean?
Yeah, they could very well have done. I'm not sure I like the Crazy Kiwis K64 Carnage either.
No, it's a bit. I mean, that's the only Ocean game they haven't mentioned is by Ocean, ironically.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, is that by Ocean? Oh yeah, it is. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
yeah. And I don't like. I mean, you've got obviously Rainbow Islands down the bottom and New Zealand Story against the dark grittiness at the top. I don't think it's a good combo.
Doesn't work. No, you look up. You've got 4 angry men in sepia, clearly blasting away pistols at people. Below that, hey, cutesy character. It doesn't work. It's totally at odds with each other. It's wrong.
Yeah, it's a bit wrong. No,
I don't like it. Sorry.
No, I don't.
That's well drawn, but
but not for us. Not for us.
No, it's just I just don't. I think that they're losing their way with these covers because they don't know what to put on the cover. I mean, there's no one C64 game to rule them all. It's such a mishmash. It's like, which one do we pick? Is it Amiga? Is it C64? They're putting games on the covers now that aren't even reviewed. It's like, I know they've done that before, but this is to a whole new level.
Yeah, we're getting that quite a lot these days.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. That's the cover. With that out of the way, should we move into some games? I think we should.
Let's do it. I think we should.
Let's get into our first game then. And Graham, that one's over to you. We've mentioned it. It was small on the cover, but tell us all about the New Zealand Story.
Well, New Zealand Story is a arcade conversion from Ocean, which is quite interesting, isn't it?
Ocean, did you say? I didn't know. Ocean.
Oh, did you not know? No, Ocean, just in case you didn't get the Ocean vibes. Yeah, Ocean. It's copyright Potato. They made the arcade, they did, in 1988. And in Japan, Game Machine listed the New Zealand Story on their November 15th, 1988 issue as being the 9th most successful table arcade unit of the month.
9th?
Yeah.
It's in the top 10.
This is in the top 10. So this is the conversion then for the C64. £9.99 for it is. Somebody costs it's a sizzler as well. And it scored 93% in Zap.
Ooh.
Okay, yeah. All right. Let's see what's going on. Coded by Richard Palmer. He coded Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge and Wet Le Mans.
Oh, yeah. He did.
He did. Graphics are by Stephen Wahid. Now, he's been around a while, hasn't he, the old Wahid?
He has.
He did Green Beret, Rambo, Yeah Kung Fu. He's done loads of them. Loads.
Yeah.
Musician for this one is Jonathan Dunn. Obviously, he's been around a while as well. Platoon, Operation Wolf, Robocop, that kind of thing. So they've all, it's a pretty, strong cast of people behind the making of, really, isn't it?
It's an ocean stalwart, should we should say.
It is. It's actually a very simple story to New Zealand Story, the story of New Zealand Story. New Zealand is a peaceful place to live if you're a Kiwi, particularly in the Auckland Zoo. Tiki is as happy as can be. Trouble turns up in the guise of a psychotic walrus who has an enormous appetite for fresh kiwi and kidnaps Tiki and his relatives to stock the larder. The walrus hides his captives around the island in 20 hazardous locations, but our hero escapes and sets about rescuing his buddies. Straightforward stuff. So as far as the gameplay is concerned, you control Tiki the Kiwi in search for the release of his kidnapped friends. And you get all this from the intro in the game as well. Initially, you are armed with just a bow and arrow. I never got bow and arrow from that, but okay. But occasionally, when you kill an enemy, they may drop an item which you can retrieve and use yourself. There are many different types of items which you will discover for yourself, but they vary from extra weapons to temporary invulnerability pills, the best kind of pills for this kind of thing. Kiwis cannot fly, and you are no exception. Do not try to imitate them. No, I added that bit. That's not really in there. However, you can get around this by shooting creatures off their balloons, which you can then commandeer and take to the sky. Surprisingly, Kiwis cannot breathe underwater either. So you must be careful if you go swimming. Your oxygen level is shown on screen, so make sure you don't drown. Shooting water from your mouth replenishes oxygen and can be used to pot your adversaries. I'm not sure what that means in the blurb. This is a rewritten version, so that might not be quite right. In the early levels, you will be shown arrows in the background which indicate the direction you must go to release the captive Kiwi on that level, but beware. On certain stages, releasing your friend alerts the big guardian creature of that level, and you must find a way of defeating it before progressing to the next level. And there's a little hint there. You must allow yourself to be swallowed by the whale so you can destroy him from the inside.
Jonah style.
Aye. Because the various layers of the walrus are so well guarded, we cannot brief you further. Your techniques will develop as you play the game, and each new level presents new, frantic, and more original challenges. And then there's a little note that says, make sure you do not waste time sightseeing, as you have a limited period to complete each level. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Really straightforward arcade stuff. There's perhaps a little bit more blurbaroo on the old for the arcade, but that's essentially the same story. And what we've got really here is a side-scrolling platformer. I suppose very much in the kind of Super Mario mold. Now, I don't know whether, which came first, the kiwi or the egg situation, but either way, it's that, whether it came first or Mario came first, I don't know in the great scheme of things arcade-wise, but it looks like Mario, so it's kind of got that vibe, small character jumping around platforms, doing stuff. So this vibe, it's not quite left to right notion of Mario, but it's on that kind of vibe. It's a platform game. There are, oddly, numerous arcade variations of this, and there's loads. I mean, this game is out on pretty much everything there's ever been. Everything there was ever will be, there is a version of this game on it. Indeed, the arcade version was released on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch in January 2023 as part of Hamster's Arcade Archives.
Good old Hamster.
So it's on everything. There's a version of this on everything. And I think there's at least 4 variations of the arcade. So lots of variations, generally meaning in terms of the arcade, slight adjustments to the level designs, the enemy types, some of the game mechanics. And the game has some, I suppose you'd call it longevity because of I don't know, if the game's been around this long and this many versions, there must be something about it, right?
Must be.
So you'll start the game and you'll get a cute and okay loading screen. It's okay. Then it moves on to an okay title screen. Nothing terrible. Music was good. Decent representation of the arcade, I thought. Very tween forgettable. So it's pretty much exactly like the arcade. It's very, very similar. In fact, if anything, it's probably one of the better versions of the sound of the arcade out of all the different versions. The usual credits will appear and such. Did the game logo need to be on a blue background on the C64? It's really weird. It's like on a giant blue block. I don't know if that's a freak of the crack or something like that, but it just seemed a bit odd that it was on a giant sort of blue square at the top. Anyway, we may never know the answer to that. You start the game, and what you get is a reasonable C64-based representation of the arcade. At the top, you have the current score, radar of the level, which appears, a little guide to where you are, number of Kiwis that you have left, high score, there's credits instead of lives, which is a nice touch, a little hint to the arcade. I like it when they do things like that. It gives it a bit more authenticity. And across the remaining time, the rest is all game. So about 3/4 of the screen, say, was all make comprises the game. The graphics are akin to the arcade, with your Tiki the Kiwi sprite being quite nicely realised in that kind of high-res overlay that we've seen done through many and many Ocean games before. Background details are all here too, obviously limited by the C64's colour palette and such, but they don't do a bad job of representing the levels. They look okay, just a bit busy. And they function and are essentially the same design as the arcade, and they're kind of in the same places. So that's not so bad. As is the model for this kind of game, the screen scrolls around as you jump up and dive about the various platforms on your quest. is a little bit of a juddery scroll. It's not super smooth, but that's actually the same in every version, including the arcade. So it's not like it's a smooth. It's just, I don't know, it's not super juddery or anything. It's just not smooth. It's not butter smooth. Not,
It's
lubrication smooth.
It's crunchy peanut butter smooth rather than smooth peanut butter.
Yeah, I think it's not distracting. It's just,
No, I mean, everyone likes crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah, and it's in every version, so it's obviously, they've converted it to every version anyway. So it scrolls around as you jump and you dive around the various platforms on your quest to find your kidnapped friends. You remain mostly central, the screen scrolling around you, which I thought was okay. So you don't, it's not a push scroll where you're sort of pushing yourself off the screen and running into things too far to the left or right. Controllers with the joystick, left, right, and up to jump, fire to shoot, and when you're on a balloon, left, right to move around, etc. So you quickly get the idea of how it controls. Very old school arcade at the end of the day. The enemy sprites are not as well realised as the main sprite, I think it's fair to say. They're very medium res, and as such, their colours tend to make them blend in with the busy backgrounds. Some of the initial levels have a kind of brown brick detail, and the snail-like creatures, yes, they do look like something else, do sort of merge with the scenery. Add to that, they will shoot at you, and those bullets will quickly get lost in. You'll lose a life, and they get lost in the scenery somewhat. So that there is some detail about that is a little bit disappointing. In that, if they'd have kept the graphic touches consistent, this would have been really, really crazy good. But unfortunately, they didn't. So I guess that's a compromise with the C64, and we'll come to a little bit of that in a minute. As in the arcade, you can actually touch the enemies as you jump around. So you can touch them. They don't kill you on contact, but their bullets do. And there's some of the scenery does, which is quite a nice touch, actually. That's straight out the arcade. The arcade plays, every version plays that way. So if you jump up through the platforms, which you can do to jump up and land on them, if there's an enemy there, jumping up and touching that enemy won't instantly kill you. So it doesn't do that. But they will do that if you sort of hang about and they'll throw and stab you and shoot at you and do that sort of thing. So that's quite an interesting touch. So there are some scenery spikes and things a little bit in there. There is a little bit of that. And it's often difficult to know whether they're going to harm you or not. Not very clearly indicated. Yeah. Which is a little bit of a mistake in this. But that's the same as the arcade. The arcade has that, but it's a bit more obvious in the arcade because the background isn't quite so eye-wateringly sort of blendy.
Yes.
And then, of course, periodically there's some enemies that will appear out of like window door things that appear. Now, these are clumsily animated and they appear really clumsy on the C64. They're meant to be sort of, I guess, they sort of beam into sort of various areas and then they unleash like a balloon creature, the creature that sat in a balloon. Now, they look quite neat and tidy in most of the other versions. C64 one, these gigantic blocky things appear and this sort of things hoy into view. And it's just felt a little bit slapdash, that. Some of the details of the game feel a bit slapdash like that. But I suppose it's all, you can once you shoot the enemy off that, you can jump on that balloon and fly around, which is exactly as you can in the arcade. And you've got pretty much free reign of the screen when you do that as well. So it's not like you're restricted. So that, again, that's straight out of the arcade. And I have to say, there's an impressive adherence to the arcade, even though you can see where they've had to compromise things. So the early levels have some arrows to guide you, as I already said. And the idea is that they guide you around this to where you'll find your kidnapped and caged compadre. Only in the C64 version, and it's the only version that does this, they're not there. Not in the cage. They appear when you touch the cage. They sort of go, hello.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why every other version, even the Amstrad Spectrum, every version has your compadres in the cage, and then you go to the cage, which now are granted. The Amstrad version, they don't look quite like Kiwis when they appear. They're kind of giant yellow splats with what might be a beak. But at least they're inside the cages like they are in the other versions. The C64 one, it's really weird. It's a really strange detail that they're not in there. But okay, it is what it is. So when you do fly to that, you'll touch the empty cage. The bird will appear and go, thank you, hello. And then it's on to the next level. And so it goes on. Now, I don't know why that bird's cage is empty. It did throw me a bit, that. Anyway. There's 5 stages to this with 4 timed levels in each stage, and at the end of each 4th level, there is an end-of-level boss, killed in the way these things usually are, of course, jumping and shooting and figuring it out on the fly. The bosses are actually pretty big in this, it has to be said, and quite impressive. Although you'll face the final walrus at the end, and indeed there is an actual ending to the game too. I don't believe it's a walrus in the arcade. I think that's an Ocean thing. I think Ocean have made it into walrus. I think it's got another kind of designation. It looks walrusy, but I'm pretty sure it's not a walrus. I think it's some other creature. But anyway, it's a walrus for Ocean. They just decided it's a walrus. Whatever.
A walrus from the ocean.
Aye. So what we've got then, really, after all of that, so that's how you play the game. For all those levels, the idea is you get to the walrus, release all your compadres. The final one you release will see you get into the final battle with the walrus, and when you do that, hey, you won. It's a long way to go. And I tell you what, some of these levels start off short. Later into the game, the levels are long because they're more like a maze, and you've got to really try and navigate and find your way around. And that's actually very, very difficult to do in these games. The difficulty goes from being quite cute to being insane on this game very quickly. So by the time you're going through the first few stages, you think, oh, this is all right. Don't get used to that. As soon as you're in the next one, into the caves, you will know pain. So what we've got is a C64 conversion that captures pretty much most of the arcade sentiment, as more often than not, okay graphics, a tad busy backgrounds for the eye later on, but the whole game is here, including the bosses and the end. All the music is a direct version of the arcade, and well, I say that the music is a shortened version of the arcade, so it's a bit on a bit of a tighter loop, which, depending on how you feel about tight loops, can get you, either be okay or it can soon annoy. It just depends. But there's a little bit of a jingle for everything, like in an arcade, so it's got all of that, which is quite nice, and it's all in a single load, which is pretty impressive, actually. I mean, that in of itself is quite impressive. There's things to be applauded as well when you think about it. This is a good go at the arcade. It has the scrolling, the level design, even the larger levels here, and the enemies. It's all packed in there. There's some issues, of course, that go with that. As is often the case, the sprite multiplexer, which is doing a lot of stuff here, to be fair, clearly starts to struggle, which can and does cause glitches, twitches, and that kind of thing. Weird frozen enemies will appear that get stuck on platforms and don't move. Bullets that pass through things or bullets that don't kill anybody. There's all sorts of little weird glitches and things like that occur. They can and do happen and can and will cause you issues as you play through. There's no way around that. I guess it's a limitation of 8 sprites and a C64 with 64K and a CPU and VIC chip. I guess it's just limitations. It's not an arcade. It's not 3Z80s or whatever's in the original arcade. Also, the level graphics, I think, eventually get really hard on the eye, especially in those cave levels. I mean, it's bad enough that it's tiled brick, which after a while it makes your eyes go, and there's quite tiny bricks as well. But in the caves and in later levels, there's just a very tight repeated pattern, which doesn't lend itself to lots of slightly jerky movement. So I know that we said it's not smooth scrolling, and that's okay. But, if you amplify that with tiny brick patterns, my 50-year-old eyes were starting to go, hey. But you know what? Maybe,
the channel
back then,
large.
it was a bit like that. So I think they were a bit hard on the eye. And I get the predilection for brick and tile based backgrounds as a memory saver. I mean, it's obvious why they've done it, because it's it's a good way of doing that. Okay, fair enough. But on top of that sort of eye stretching, eye breaking things, some of the enemy sprites do get lost in that. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And then when you combine that with the flickering and everything else, and the sort of the twitching and the multiplexer start to lose its mind, it all gets a bit trying on the patience in the eyes at certain points. And I can tell you something, at least 2 of those levels have a really short time frame on them as well. There's 2 or 3 of them, in fact. And that's really something really odd. It seems inherited from other 8-bit versions, because when I did a check on the others, a lot of them have really tight timelines for the levels, especially the Amstrad version. So chances are on a couple of those levels, there's no way you're going to get through them without losing a life, because if you run out of time, you lose a life. So I don't think there's a way of getting through them. Now, you can gain extra lives in this because you can collect letters and it spells out a word. I forget what the word is now, but it spells out a word. And if you get all the letters, well, you get an extra life. So, okay, you can do that. I think it's extend. I think the word is you collect because some of the enemies obviously drop stuff. And like I said before, the music is mainly here, but it is that shortened version. So I suppose the question is really, is there enough of the arcade here to give it a good playability? And or has there been too much compromise with the visual detail and some of that, which has been lost in the process of conversion, which has made it so that it's a good conversion, but is it going to be are you going to get through it without having a seizure or a really bad headache? I don't know. The core game's there. So maybe it's a tad empty. Maybe there is that. I got the impression they've tried to align it as much as they could to the arcade. They've clearly played and been through the arcade a few times to get it this accurate. And it is, of course, a lot more blocky. It's on the Commodore 64. Let's accept that. Does that quality spoil the game? I think the main thing that is here is that, cuteness aside, this was always a pretty flat Super Mario type game anyway. The searching aspects and floating on balloons or climbing on the back of a goose I suppose it's good and it's all there. And if that was as close as you could get to the arcade then at the time, then maybe that's not bad. But those mini issues around the level times, the eye melting background tiles and the blockiness for the enemies and that compromise that you have for it being on the C64, well, I don't know. You've got to make a decision, haven't you, whether that's going to be the thing you remember and think, oh, I don't know if I play this game because of that, or whether you think, actually, this isn't a bad conversion. I'm actually opting for I don't think this is a bad conversion at all. I think that this is a single load. It's got everything in it. Yes, there's compromises to be made, but they've had to make those to fit it in, and fit it in they did. This is not half the game. This is not half the levels. Every level, every boss, most of the enemies that are in the right place, all the levels designed as they are, whether they melt your eyes or not, whether the scrolling jerks or not. I think on the balance of the game, considering how much is in here, this is pretty good. Now, I never really liked NewZealand Story that much. I found myself quite enjoying playing this. I'm not sure if it's because I've been spending so much time on Super Mario Wonder at the moment, Mario Wonder, then I'm just kind of into this kind of stuff. But there's a nice playability to this. And for the C64, This is pretty good. This is up in the sort of, when we come to these games, more often than not, these kind of platformers fall a bit flat on the C64. This isn't bad at all. So it's as close as the arcade as you're probably going to get on the C64, minus some of the interstitials. But what did you think?
Pretty much exactly the same. I mean, I never played the original arcade of this. Did you? Did you ever see this? I don't think I ever even saw it.
I don't know if I've seen it. I don't know. I don't remember playing it.
No,
so.
I don't think I've ever seen it or played this. But I had a quick look on YouTube to see what it's like. And yeah, they've done a really good job in cramming the levels in here. And it does have the look and feel of the arcade original, albeit in a C64 fashion. And for those elements, they should be praised because, like you said, they fitted everything in and it's single load.
Yeah, I think
all
so.
good.
I think that's fair.
But like you said, and I've got this written down here, it's a bit twitchy and glitchy around the edges with some quite prominent sprite flicker on display. And sometimes that affects the bullets, which your bullets can pass through things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I found I was shooting stuff and they weren't dying. I was like, the bullets just, okay. So that can be a bit of a pain. The sounds and visuals, they're decent enough. Like you said, I've got exactly the same. Some of the sprites are a little hard to make out against the very yellow, it's all yellow background.
Yellow. Yeah, it's a bit over yellow, isn't it?
It's a bit yellow. This is certainly a Coldplay's favourite gamers. It's a lot of yellow. It's a decent port. And as a game, it is pretty addictive because these kind of games generally are. As you learn to move through the levels, you get faster and faster. But I found that when I died, like you said, I died to the game rather than me making a mistake. So I was like, what's that? Oh, I'm dead. Is that a spike? Oh, it is. Like, it's that first thing right at the beginning of the first level. You just kind of walk along the bottom and it's just dead. You're like, what is that? Why is it even there?
Yeah.
I thought it was a collectible or something. Things like that are a bit annoying, but maybe that's from the arcade. That's the level design from the arcade. They've just got to go with it, aren't they? But again, like I said, sometimes I would shoot stuff or try and get on a floating thing and not make it, and sometimes just be like hampered by tons of. There's one bit where you got to drop down and there's tons of those doors opening and just firing from all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So I did find it tricky in places more than it kind of needed to be, I think, especially that early in the game. But it's good. It's not a terrible conversion. It's a pretty decent conversion. I don't think it's up there with the best conversions on the system because I think, again, you're working with the source material, aren't you? It's a pretty decent game, but it's not. It is, like you said, I think it doffs its cap to Mario.
Totally.
In the grand scheme of things, and I think there's a lot of Mario in this. I mean, you can shoot and stuff, but it's fine. It's cute. It's nice, and it's a good conversion. It's just very yellow, all yellow.
It is very yellow bird up high in banana tree. Is very a lot of yellow in that.
It is. I mean, the later levels get a bit less yellow, but that opening one, I'm not sure. Like you said, so many yellow brick tiles.
Oh, those yellow bricks. I was like, please no more levels with bricks in because I can't cope with it.
And then those things that float in, they're floating on, because it's yellow and brown in it, they're floating on yellow and brown sort of rocks. and they're kind of green and brown. It's like, this is not, the C64 is not, no. I don't know why they weren't. I can probably guess why they're not high res. It's another sprite in it they've got to draw around them. So the multiplex would have just collapsed, I think.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There's technical limitations. I mean, they try to hide them, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah. But I think they've done a good job, like you said, of fitting everything in. And I think something. I put this with something like Bionic Commando kind of thing, kind of level-ish myself.
Yeah, I'd go with that, in there. Yeah.
It's
93% though.
I think so. I think for what's there and how playable it is, and for the time, I think so. I think for the machine,
this got 20% more, over just under 20% more than the platformer that we reviewed in the last episode.
Oh, Rick Dangerous. Yeah, stupid that is. But then again, Rick Dangerous didn't pay for a cover, did they?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
It does make you wonder. I mean, I can see where I got it, but we said Rick Dangerous should have been up in the 90s. I think it should have been.
That's what I mean. So it just seems odd that this game would be and that one isn't, and yet this one actually is probably buggier than that other one.
It is, yeah. And Rick Dangerous, I think, is... Well, I mean, this is a conversion, so they're just working to a template, aren't they? Rick Dangerous is a lot more... Yeah. It's original piece of software.
Yeah, it is.
But there you go. That's it. There you go. New Zealand Story. It's all right. It's not a bad conversion. Maybe you're right. Maybe conversion. The 80s. Maybe it should be down the 80s. Let's move on. We've still got 2 games. We've got 6 this week. Let's move along to our next one. Hands up, Graham. If you remember the Pink Panther game, do you remember that?
I remember it well.
Yeah. It followed the War Games principle, didn't it? Which is the only way to win was not to play.
Yes. You could just go to the right and get to the desert island and go, you know what? Do that.
Just go to the right. But now, for some reason, I can only imagine that they've been around and bought all these. Magic Bites, people who made that horror, have been given a second bite of the iconic animation apple with Tom and Jerry hunting high and low. Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with the Aha song. I don't know why. Full price game. It was coded by Kevin Mickelson and Winfried Stappert. It has graphics by Ralph Vogel and music by the ever reliable, or the one we've heard quite a lot of because we've not seen anything of the others, George Brandt.
Aye.
Called George Brandt, how do you pronounce that? This game has a couple of title screens, the first being the Magic Bytes logo with some spooky music.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, and then we get the logo image of Tom and Jerry, which is pretty well drawn, I thought, and it worked here rather than that headless thing we saw for the crapvert. It's contextual here and looks like the logo of the cartoon. So I was like, yes. So I think you were right in trying to say that's what they were trying to do on the crapvert. Yeah. They failed because they didn't have the background.
Yeah, it needs that.
It needs context. Here it works. Okay. There's some music here. It reminded me of early Hubbard, maybe like Jerry the Germ or Thing on a Spring.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. And why isn't it the Tom and Jerry music?
I don't know, but we've asked that of many things. Yeah. Many times we've asked that. And when we did get the right music, we were horrified by it, I think.
Yeah, the monkey's paws just started to tremble.
It was the Munsters, wasn't it? The Munsters did it to us. That was it. It's okay. The music's all right. We also get the title in purple on black. With nothing better to do, we press the fire button to commence the slowing.
Slowing.
There's lots of slowing in this.
Tom and Jerry shouldn't be slowing.
No, this game does not load quickly. And when it finally does load, we get the word time and the number 600 in grey at the bottom of the screen, the Commodore font. Nothing promises a wacky adventure like a grey font on a black screen.
Yes.
I mean, I was like, oh, amazing time.
I was hooked.
Yeah. The game world then scrolls on from the right to the left, and we have a side-on view of a living room with Jerry perched on a shelf on the left of the screen. I'm just going to stop here and kind of let you know what the game's all about, because I've kind of got this part, because there's the instruction manual. It starts off with a couple of poems, one from Jerry and one from Tom, which I shall now read. Jerry's poem goes like this: I love cheese, give me more to fill my tummy. Stinky cheese, runny cheese, yummy, yummy, yummy. That sweet smell drives me mad, makes me look for more. I eat the bits around the holes are just a bore. I love cheese, cheese is my life. I dream of cheese at night. My whole world is made of cheese. Now I need a bite.
Okay.
Tom's poem goes like this: that fat little mouse is my delight. I'm after him day and night. I will catch him, come what may. If I'm not hit by bullets stray, and when I do, then do not grieve. Congratulate me as you leave.
What?
I don't know.
Bullets stray?
Yeah. If I'm not hit by bullets stray.
Oh, I hate it when they do it that. That's just the sign of a shit poet.
Yeah, I know it is. I will catch him come what may. If I'm not hit by bullets stray.
Honestly, was this written by Happy Gilmore?
I don't know.
Shooter McGavin's poem, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's rubbish. That's what it is. So Jerry is desperate for cheese and Tom is out to stop him. That's the game. All right, that's it. You control Jerry and your job is to navigate the platform-style world of the house you're in and collect and eat as much cheese as possible. Controls are simple enough, with left and right to move, fire to jump, and down when on a suitable object to try and drop it, hopefully on Tom's head. As you move across the levels, Tom will emerge from the right and try to catch you. He does this in two ways. First, he can jump and knock you off any shelf you may be on, if he can reach you. And second, once he has done this, he will pounce on you on the floor. If he does this, then you lose 30 seconds of your 600 allowed at the beginning of the game. I hate the fact that it just doesn't say 10 minutes.
No, don't.
600 time. You got 600 time, Graham.
So stupid. That's longer than the cartoons were.
600
stupid
time.
Idiots.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Like at the beginning of the game, the script, when it does catch you, the screen goes black and you start again where you left off. There are also mouse holes which you can enter in the skirting boards. Entering one of these takes you on a trippy 3D section where you navigate the multiverse to re-emerge in another room in the house.
That bit. Why?
Down these tunnels, stray bits of detritus will need to be avoided, like bowling balls and other kind of crazy crap, whilst floating bits of cheese will need to be eaten. I thought I'd eaten a bit of wrong cheese when these bits happened. I was like, oh, I've eaten some. That cheese was off I had at lunchtime. What's going on? There are 4 different rooms, levels, and you need to collect every bit of cheese in them before heading back to room 1 and the cheese store for some reason. I thought he was just eating the cheese. Why does he need to go back to a cheese store? And why is that predicated on him eating all the cheese in the house? Why don't you just go to the cheese store if he loves cheese?
Yeah, which you could do.
It makes little sense, this, but you won't care because this game is not very good. The graphics, I guess, are pretty decent. There's an okay Tom and Jerry moving about the screen, and the background objects, they're okay. But I went and played 1984's Henry's House the other week, and they're done well better in that. Those background graphics in those rooms in Henry's house are much better than these. They're not that great, but they're serviceable and passable. But, however, the game is horrible to control. Jerry moves and reacts really slowly, far too slowly to avoid Tom. Remember Jerry in the cartoon? He's like running and legging it, skidding around fast, running away from a cat. And this is like
So stupid.
It's far too slow to avoid Tom in any great way. And time again, I was knocked off the shelves. Sometimes I was knocked off shelves into areas where I couldn't move and just grabbed by Tom. The shelves are all solid objects as well, so that's really annoying. So it's basically just a block.
Yeah,
It might as well just be a block. Because it says, as is everything on them, so you can't jump up through them, walk past objects. Everything is solid. Not like in a lot of platforms where you can just run along the shelf and maybe jump up on stuff. And no, you can't jump up to the next thing. Nope, none of that.
Nope.
You got to go around the edges. It's the edges for you. You can only jump on them from the side. The same goes for objects. You can't run past them, as he said. You must try and jump over them. Jerry will often get stuck on them, and this causes more frustration. You can try and knock some of the objects off the shelves onto Tom, but this is an onerous and tricky task because it moves so slowly, and then they just fall past him. And it doesn't always seem to work. And when it does, Tom isn't rendered unconscious for very long, so he'll soon be after you again. It's all very annoying. As a platformer, this is very lacking. The levels are not particularly well designed, and the controls are leaden and unresponsive. The goal of the game is boring, and the simplistic nature of it all will soon have you running for your own mouse hole to get away from it. We've recently played things like Rick Dangerous, Guyana Sisters, and this very issue, New Zealand Story. We've got Rainbow Islands next week. Both cute-style platformers render this utterly redundant in just about every way. The whole nature of Tom and Jerry is crazy, fast action with moments of mad panic and the ensuing fun of that coming thick and fast. Making your game a boring, lumpy collectathon about cheese is simply missing the point, even if you do try and include some of the mouse-on-cat violent action. A boring, clumsy game that, once again, is not worthy of the license. Arse.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, let me just preface this and explain that I am a massive, and I mean massive, Tom and Jerry fan.
Early Tom and Jerry, the classic Tom and Jerry before the 60s happened. Awesome.
Just all Tom and Jerry for me. I mean, and I'm talking, as far back as when he was called Jasper. That's how far back I go with me and Thomas. We're like that. We are. Tom and Jerry was the mainstay of my childhood. That and Bugs Bunny, the mainstay of my childhood cartoon memories.
Yeah.
And early childhood, and that's important. That's an important thing to note. So when clowns come along and bastardize something that I actually cherish, I take that very personally. So this game is just awful in every possible. Now, actually, let me say this: Jerry looked like a mouse, Jerry Mouse, and Thomas looked like Thomas.
He did.
Okay,
they did.
And the background graphics looked suitably backgroundy for a C64 game of this type. They looked, I mean, in movement and the way he plays, awful, but they looked like they could have formed into something that could have taken shape. The problem here is not about the characters. All of that is set. So like we said about the previous game, all of that, there's a benchmark for Tom and Jerry. It has to look like Tom and Jerry. And the backgrounds have to look like a sort of domestic scene because that's Tom and Jerry. That's where it's the mainstay of all their cartoons.
Yeah.
So they couldn't have got that bit wrong. What they get wrong is everything else in such a fundamental way that it's like you misunderstand Tom and Jerry. And there's only really one dynamic you need to understand, isn't there? A cat chasing a mouse. So would it have been better for you to play the cat instead of the mouse?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it such a cop-out to play a game where you're a mouse collecting cheese? Yeah, because Jerry's capable of doing loads. What he proves in the cartoon how clever he is by outsmarting Thomas at every instance, not just by collecting cheese, although they often try and form a trap by putting cheese and the smell will get him wafting in when he's asleep and all of that stuff that's in the cartoon. They could have used that to their advantage, but no. What you end up with is a really crap game. And like you said, jumping on the edges of things, it's so clumsily handled. So everything about this game, other than the fact that they drew Tom and Jerry to make it look like Tom and Jerry, which, they had to, everything else is wrong. The music's bad, the game is bad, the game design is awful, it doesn't play like a Tom and Jerry game, they don't act like Tom and Jerry, and then you get to the stupid, sluggish control. It's a mouse. A very light, fast mouse.
Yep.
He controls like an elephant.
You ever seen a mouse run have you ever tried to catch a mouse?
It's impossible. Like lightning, one might say, and that would, then they could have used that to their advantage in this game. So you could have been faster, and you could have set things for Thomas and land on him. And really, all you end up doing is kind of dropping bowling balls on his head. Yeah. And then when you go to that stroboscopic trippy section, which is in it for no reason whatsoever, everything that you previously could pick up and use is suddenly against you. It's like, what are you doing? Why is that even there? Why does he need to go? I mean, is he meant to be going through some kind of mouse hole, like a wormhole? Why is it there?
don't
And all
know.
it really showed to me was that they took this is a really big license as well. It's not some small thing, is it? What's this? Tom and Jerry, what is it? Metro Goldwyn, MGM? I mean, it must be
I think
huge.
so, yeah.
So, not content with getting the Pink Panther and, sticking one up that, they now get Tom and Jerry. And I think, do you know what? No, I'm not having it. Not having it at all.
No.
Would it have been so difficult to take a leaf from Star Paws' book and just make it like that, or Roadrunner, where they, we know it wasn't perfect in any, but it was better than this.
It was.
And at least adhered to the character sort of archetypes. Tom is a cat that likes to chase and so oftentimes he's actually trying to prove himself to the owner of the house. He's not actually trying to just eat mice or anything else. He's actually just trying to prove that he can be a mouse catcher to the house owner or something like that. And Jerry is often just wants, in some of the later ones, he just wants to sort of have a home. He wants to just have a home. He wants to make a little mouse home. That's kind of the nature of the way these things work. Yes, at certain points, Jerry does threaten him with a broken glass bottle or set him on fire or drop an iron on his head. Why can't those things happen? It's just, this had the look, but nothing of Tom and Jerry's feel or anything else. So an abomination. 43%. I would have given this 0. It is crap.
Yeah.
And it deserves this. It deserves unpoured lava-based scorn upon it.
It didn't even have the option to put a pin on the floor, which is
Just-
one of
it's so
which is
wrong.
the best moments in the Tom and Jerry cartoons always come when Tom steps on a pin and he does that freeze moment. He
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
scream.
And then he does the scream, which
The
they could
massive
put in. You know
scream.
what baffles me is that even if you hadn't, I mean, it takes 3 minutes to watch a Tom and Jerry cartoon, of which there are hundreds.
You just
So it's not like the source material isn't out there for them to go, what is this Tom and Jerry about? Would it have take 3 minutes of your life to look? You'd have picked it up from the cartoons because that's their instant appeal, Oscar-winning instant appeal, and then you could have gone, right, okay, so we can make it a bit more about it. And then instead of going, well, let's just make it about a mouse eating cheese. It's like, that's such a cop-out, you lazy, good-for-nothing developing scumbags. Get lost and don't ever come back. Can't be doing with that. No, I'm not having it. No.
we
Now,
don't like.
God forbid if they come back with a Bugs Bunny game. That honestly,
Well, to be fair, this is the only game, apart from Judge Brandt, this is the only game that I found that these people made.
thank God, time travel. I'd be getting my time machine out. I'm
I
telling
think
you,
they just go off and work on the Amiga. I don't know.
I'd be going full Command and Conquer Red Alert on them.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, no, there you go. Tom and Jerry, it's bloody rubbish.
Didn't like it. Don't play it. Don't upset yourself and don't upset. Don't do it.
No. Let's move along. We've still got one game left this part. Let's move on to that. Graham, it's time for you to rescue some hostages.
Yay. Okay, so this is an Infogrames game. It was $9.99. It got 66% in Zap. Okay. It was coded by Philippe Campion and Harold Ovzek. I think that's how you pronounce that. Ovzek, I think. Musician was Charles Calais. He did the music for Lee Enfield and something called Passengers on the Wind, which I thought sounded like a Spinal Tap album. But what do I know? Anyway, won't hold that
Very well
against him.
be.
We won't hold that against him. So there's a fairly straightforward premise to Hostages. I'll just go through it because it is quite straightforward. Essentially, people have been kidnapped by terrorists and are being held hostage, and you control a kind of they're not SWAT team because that's an American, but a team of specialists.
Yeah.
Who will go in and their job is to go in and rescue said hostages and do so without cause either getting all of your team killed or losing too many of the hostages in the way. And so there's a series of stages you need to go through in order to do exactly that. Now, I'll sort of go through the parts because it's probably easier to sort of do this. So when the game starts, and by the way, I actually played more of this on the Amiga back in the day than I did on the C64. So it was quite interesting.
Oh, you played
play
this before, had you?
Yeah, on the Amiga, yeah.
Right, okay.
As soon as the music came on, I was like, oh, it's that one with that doom, 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 doom. And then the hostages scrolling loads. It's like, God, over scroll. Anyway, after you've chosen your rank and your mission, it's into the crazy world of beginning, anyway, at the start, of Delta, Echo, and Mike, your 3 operatives. And you've got to kind of get through 2 parts of the game. The first part is with Delta, Echo, and Mike, and let you get 3 more operatives as well. So the first part of the game, you've actually got to position your marksman at key points around the building where the hostages have been taken. So you're presented with a split screen for this. The top half shows a map of the embassy with some of the key marksman locations indicated with an X, which is where you've got to get your 3 operatives to. And to the right of that is the remaining time for this part of the mission. Time is, well, I say the remaining time, I think it's your overall time that you've got. But anyway, so you've got that. And then obviously there's the name of your 3 operatives. You can switch between them with the 1 to 3 keys, which is quite cool. And the lower half of the screen is where you control your operative with the joystick and attempt to run to the indicated location or one of the 3 locations and take up your position there. You control everything with the joystick here, running, walking, crawling, prone, kneeling, jumping, and importantly, ducking into hiding places along the way. You control your player sprite. Here, a bit of an amorphous blue man-shaped blob who fidgets more than animates across a functional series of background buildings, walls,
he
and doorways,
animates very well
etc.
when going into cover, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah, when he dives into cover and he slips in the way, but when he runs, it's like, I was like, all right, just, it is what it is. And it was better on the Amiga.
Style running.
He does sort of fidget a bit. And it's sort of weird as well, because when you start, the X is to your left and you think, I better run to the left. You need to run to the right. I still can't get my head around that.
That broke my head as well, first of all.
Like, why are all the X's are to the left on the map? Anyway.
Why am I getting further away?
If you're looking top down, I suppose maybe, anyway, it doesn't matter.
I suppose you'll see, because you're seeing the back, aren't you, where he's going into. I kind of see it.
It sort of makes sense. But anyway, you soon figure it out. You just don't go the way you think and you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as you sort of fidget in, hey, and then you'll see these searchlights and they're scanning for you. Now, the idea is obviously don't get caught out in a searchlight because that's, you're going to get shot. And they do shoot at you and they'll hit you and that's one of your operatives, dead. No on that. And you only got 3 goes from because you've got 3 operatives. And at this point, if you lose all 3, well, that's it. The game's over and it's back to the drawing board a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea then is you run along, avoid the searchlights, which means you can duck under cover because there's little bits with walls where you can leap over, doorways you can dive in, windows you can heroically leap through, or you can go prone, you can crouch. You've got control over trying to not be seen. How to not be seen is the kind of the key here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll run and do all of that stuff until you get to the vantage point. When you get to the vantage point, you then switch to one of the other operatives, and then you got to try and do that 3 times to get into position, which is all fine. So, like I say, don't get shot is the best thing, and just keep your eye on everything, including the clock and everything else, obviously the time and everything else. So, and moving between the guys is easy enough, and you can move between them at any point as well. So you can get somebody, get them in cover, jump to Mike, get him so far, and you edge your way through. It would be inadvisable to try and leap and run to the furthest vantage point in one take
without getting into cover first.
Because you're going to get shot.
You would, yeah.
No way around that. And there's sometimes there's 1 searchlight, sometimes there's 2, and they're pretty. If they sort of see you, then they'll come and they'll double down on you to see if they can find you. So it's pretty good. But like I said, it's easy enough to move between the 3, and it keeps at a pace. It's not like you press the 2 key and there's like some loading or something dull like that. It switches instantly, so it's quite nice like that. So when you do get to the marked location, after you've successfully got all 3 to their place, then you have to press the return key. Don't press the space key. Whatever you do at that point, don't press the space bar. Why? Because that restarts the whole level. It's a really stupid thing. I don't know why it's there. It even warns you of it in the instructions. Like, if you want to reach, if you get to the vantage point, press space bar, you'll go back to the beginning again and you do it all over again. It's like, well, that's really stupid.
Why have you put that in?
I don't know why it's there. And also, when you do get one of you guys to the vantage point, it has this really weird way of scrolling all the way back to where one of the other guys is, like scrolls. It's like, it doesn't just jump. So that is a bit annoying because you're like, oh, here we go. Because it's not like it takes ages or anything, but it's just weird. Anyway, once you're all in position, remember, don't press the space bar. That would be a big mistake at that point. Press the return key and you'll enter the next part. Okay. Here, you begin by moving your assault team into position. That's Hotel Tango and Bravo to you and me. Good old HTB. These are also known as the Dick Men. Now, I didn't make that up. That's in the instructions. DIC, they're the Dick Men. There is an acronym for that, but they're Dick Men. The Dick Men have arrived. You've got to get the Dick Men in. So many jokes and double entendres. At this point, it gets beyond belief. I'm not going to do too many. I'll try and avoid them where I can. Anyway, so you got to get your Dick Men and position them correctly. So get your Dick Men into position. Okay. And the idea is that you've got to align them with the X's that are because they're going on top of the building and your men are obviously around the sides because your men are going to act as snipers. And I'll come to what it all means. But so you've got to get the Dick Men to their position on top of the roof. Okay. You do this with your joystick. This is actually pretty easy. It's a bit odd, this. It's a bit simple, but it actually gets more difficult, and I'll explain why in a minute. But anyway, so you position them where you're going to be. When you're happy with that, it took me ages. Thank God you found it, but it took ages to find it. But you have to press the end key on a keyboard on my
modern
Mac.
Keyboard, yeah. It is on mine as well, on a modern PC on this emulator.
Which then turns them into a abseiling view. So you get the screen changes and you get like a view of them on the right-hand side.
They're on the roof, aren't they?
Yeah, they're on the roof, and the idea of the game, obviously, you've got to break in hostage, smash your way into the building and go through the windows, and then obviously you're inside the building and do all of that kind of thing. Now, obviously, you can't jump through windows when there's people in the windows. That would be daft to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And So as you abseil down the building, and abseiling down is funny because you'll go down, like super cool, super animation, slide down the rope. Then you'll see a shadow in the window. Then if you want to go back up, the animation's not as good. It's a bit like, I'm dead.
Or like I do, keep abseiling and then he just lets go for no reason and falls off.
Why does he do that? He just drops to his death. Anyway, so once you press end, and then you got to abseil down to the window entry point of the building. Now you got to be careful, like I said, because sometimes there's terrorists in those windows. So you either have to wait, move back up, or you can switch to one of your snipers in their positions, and you can shoot them through the window.
Yeah.
So you can target them, which is obviously what you should do.
Yes.
Now you've got to be careful when you do that, because that alerts all the terrorists in the building. It's not obvious that it does till you're in the building, but that alerts the terrorists to where you are in that building, and they send loads of terrorists to come get you. So sometimes it's better to shoot another window out and go through a different window in this game so that the terrorists go to the wrong location. Now, it's not obvious that it does that, but it does do that.
That would explain why every time I did it, I just shot abseil through and then said someone wait for me to go popped. I was like, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. But sometimes you can just smash your way in through a window. When you do that, we sort of get another dynamic. So like I said, you've got to be careful. Make sure there's no terrorist there. You can either go back up, you can switch between the other dickmen with keys 4, 5, and 6, and you can switch to your original sniper crew, assuming that you've got all 3 of them alive, with keys 1, 2, and 3. So, like I said, you press right to slide down, you can press fire to swing out and smash your way to the building. Like I said, just remember, if there's a terrorist there, if there is a terrorist in that window and you smash through, you'll be killed instantly. That person is dead. There's no jumping through the window and having a shootout. If there's a shadow in the window and you smash through, and they have a knack of appearing just as you're at peak swing back, that guy's dead.
Terrible mistake.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. And so like I said, and don't forget, you've got to remember, you've got Delta, Echo, and Mike out there. You can switch to them and scan the outside of the building, check the windows, and sort of cause distractions and stuff like that. So between both teams, you stage an assault on the building, and that is pretty damn neat, actually, the way that works.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in the building, your view is actually split into 5 areas. Top left is your 3D point of view. Top right is a graphic of your operative. Bottom left is your map with the hostages and terrorists indicated, and you as an arrow. Very neat, actually, the way that works. It's quite clear who's what and where. I like that. Also indicates your compass direction and floor number, because there's multiple floors on this as well. Next to that, another graphic, and to the right of that, your remaining team members' call signs. So this obviously gives you an indication of how many you have left at this point. Now, bear in mind, you can go into the building with 1 operative, 2 operatives, or 3 operatives. And in the later levels, you'll need to go in with all 3, and you need to cover each other's back, because I can tell you, it gets really hard. But for this beginning one, I went in sort of as 1 operative, and I was able to just go on some kind of kill crazy.
You just went full on Lewis Collins from Who Dares Wins.
I did, yeah, I did. It was very Who Dares Wins, very heroic. So a couple of other indicators. You've got a compass direction and your floor number, like I said, on there as well. So you sort of know where you are. And the idea here is you can go room to room, corridor to corridor, looking for terrorists or hostages, or sometimes both, because they'll be in the same area. You can move around your joystick with the view. Then it's kind of a rotational view. So you sort of rotate the view in the top left 3 sort of point of view. Push forward to go forwards if we're in a corridor, but it works. It's fast. It's not sluggish. It's not trying to draw fancy 3D. It's just zoom, zoom, doom. But it works. It works in the context of what this is. So again, you're moving around the joystick. Aiming depends on the mode you're in, because if you confront a terrorist, that engages fire mode. And then you've got to move your sort of weapon reticule, target reticule, to where the terrorist is and shoot at them. Now, this isn't as easy as it sounds, because you don't get you don't get a target reticule as such. You just get an idea of where you're shooting at, but eventually you'll shoot them and they go, and you can shoot them. Just be careful you don't shoot the hostages, because that's bad. Killing hostages, bad. Keeping them alive, good. And then once you've killed all the terrorists on a level, you can guide the hostages to the safe room for that level if you want to. Now, normally there's a room with 1 door and no windows, and at least on the top floor of every building that you take into this game. So you can guide all of your surviving hostages to that room, and then you can at least keep everyone safe. If the terrorists get wind that you're in there, they'll start killing the hostages. And eventually, of course, if they kill them all, then that's the game over for you. Mm-hmm. So at this point, then, you're sneaking around room to room, and you'll find yourself being quiet for no reason. But you're sneaking around, looking around. Now, there's staircases as well, because these are multi-level, so you can go up downstairs and do all of that. You can also then crash into the windows, cause distractions with the other team members, and enter with the others and switch between them all. So you can actually then sort of do a full-scale sort of assault on this building and then go around the inside shooting on the terrorists. All the terrorists and such will appear in the view on the top left when they do, and you can aim your weapon and shoot them, because, like I said, don't shoot the hostages. Then you can carefully look around, enter the rooms, look around. Remember that the enemy terrorists will also be looking and shooting at you, and they look for you as well. So if there's hear a noise or there's large noise, they'll come looking for you. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that means they'll go and get hostages as shields. So you've got to be carefully about that. because it's much harder to shoot a terrorist if they've got a shield, as a hostage shield. Shoot all the terrorists and it's mission accomplished. And then you can choose to either replay parts 1 or 2 again. If you lose all your men, you get a slap on the wrist. And then disappointingly, the exact same choice, which I thought was really weird. So when you lose, you don't go back to the beginning. You can just replay it again. If you win, you get a nice message, but you then can replay it again. It's like, just feels a little bit like underwhelming, that. Anyway.
Yeah.
The levels of difficulty are very intense as you try the harder levels in this, I can tell you now. And the maps are larger, buildings are taller, there's more complex, there's a lot more terrorists. And so it gets quite complicated when you're trying to navigate around, because sometimes you find yourself surrounded by terrorists and they will go and find the safe room and try and kill all your hostages as well. And there's little bits of logic, AI logic, such as they are AI, but there's little bits of logic in this game that aren't immediately obvious when you're playing it, but they are in there and it just have an effect on the dynamic of the game. So the question is really, after all of that, does this work as a game? And the answer for the main part is, I think, yes. The graphics could have been better, maybe, should have been, probably, really, for some parts, but they function, and it sets out what it aims to do and achieve. The second part is a lot better than the first, but as a whole, it's coherent. If anything, this is just missing a bigger overarching objective. So obviously you've got to rescue the hostages, but that's kind of it. But if this had been part of multiple missions and you had to work your way up, or there was some kind of ranking system or something like that, well, you're getting into more modern game territory there. But I think with missions, etc., that would have helped just give it a bit more around the edges. It would have gelled together a bit better if it felt like you was on a bigger, more meaningful mission or something like that, or it added up to something. So this is clearly shown, I think, in the winning and losing, which is essentially the same thing in this game, which is a bit disappointing, but okay, it is what it is. This is really 8-bit Rainbow Six, isn't it?
That's what I was thinking, yeah, exactly.
It kind of is. I mean, obviously that's way in advance of all that, but there is parts of that lean into this, and I don't think you can have really any doubts about it. Even with some of the smudgy graphics, there's a neat game in here with some playable ideas around team management and multiple modes of play. It also requires some skill as well. You can't just run around shooting the place up. And I like that about this. I liked it about the Amiga version. I liked it about this. And this is actually, I think, weirdly, there's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit better than the Amiga version for some reason, but it's a long time since I played that. Anyway, tactics are the order of the day here. It's not like you can just go in there and go on a kill crazy. I tried it. And you sort of can on those early levels, but later on, no chance. So limitations, maybe, but under the hood, it's a bit different, isn't it, this? Something that functions from infograms for once. That's nice. It's let down with those sort of graphic animations. We're fidgeting around a bit for the first part, but I actually really enjoyed playing this again, and I really enjoy the C64 version. I think 66% is a little bit harsh. I mean, it's not a mega. I mean, but maybe it's an 80%, 70, 80s or something, but 66 feels a 3/4. It's not, it's the third missing, isn't it? It's a 2/3 good. I think it's a bit better than that. But what did you think? I think pretty much the same as you. I think it is a bit harsh because I think this is another one where they've it takes a little bit of time to sort of get into. And it takes I imagine in the crush of trying to put a monthly magazine together and everything else they've got to do and everything, it may just been it's all right. Just give it 2/3. It falls into that 2/3 bracket. Yeah. It's the 6, 7 out of 10, isn't it? We don't quite know about it. 6, 7 out of 10, that'll do. Yeah. No one can get too angry with that. But it's another of those odd games from Infogrames. Another one. We've had loads of odd games from Infogrames that do something different and weird. It's obviously inspired by, I think, the film Who Dares Wins, and obviously that was inspired by the Iranian embassy raid in 1981. Yeah, totally. That, when you could see them all abseiling in and the explosions and stuff. And they cut away from the snooker and everything, much to my annoyance. But that sees you commanding a series of men, as you said, to put them in position to take out the evil terrorists holed up in the embassy. That's kind of the story. I think it needed an overarching narrative. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like something. I don't know. They could have done some. They could have done more sort of thing with a series of building heists or something. There's enough mechanics here for it to be. You could have mixed it up a bit. But there is a fair bit to like here, from the over animated diving for cover. I loved that. Whenever I was running along, I just held up and he'd just go, "Hey!" and then you see his little head poke up. It's like, dive, nice little bits like that. To the whole parascending in, smashing through windows to get instantly shot, as I kept doing, or that's just what happened to me. But I like that parascending in. I like the sort of having to swing and smash, and being able to switch to your snipers to sort of take them out and things like that. I like that. There's a decent game here, and I think it could really grab you if you let it, because there's a lot to do. It may get a bit overly samey, but it's a C64 game. But what's here is solid, and it's got a weird vibe to it that just kind of works. I'm not sure about the politics of it. It keeps it all very nondescript. It's very much, they're terrorists and you are dick men. Okay. What? All right, okay. But it's a strategic action game, like you said, very much an early sort of example of your Rainbow Sixes and stuff, where you're breaching doors and kicking things over and going in and abseiling into windows and what have you as a team. Yeah.
Rainbow Six 3 with Ding Chavez and all that lot. I remember playing those games loads and doing all this kind of stuff, just obviously in much better graphics and stuff like that. It's okay. It's pretty good, this. A little disjointed how you navigated the play of it because of the weird having to press the end key or whatever that button was. And there's some odd choices like spacebar resetting it. It's an odd one, but I really like it. Do you know, strange, this came out on just about everything. It even came out on the Electron.
Electron?
Yeah. If you look on Moby Games, there's an Electron screenshot, and there's loads of screenshots because it also came out on the BBC Micro. Imagine this, and it looks exactly as you'd expect it to look on the BBC Micro. But weirdly, I can't believe it came out on those. But yeah, it came out on everything: Spectrum, Amstrad, DOS, Amiga. It even came out on the NES. It's on everything.
Wow.
Weird one. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's good. It's all right. It's different. And I quite enjoyed its weirdness. So, all right. Here we go. That's our first 3 games for this month. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk music, both albums and singles, for September 1989. So stick with us. And we're back. Let's get into some music. Number 1 single, Graham, for September 1989. It was, of course, Ride on Time by Black Box. All month.
Yes.
All month.
All
we were just
blooming
inundated with...
Yeah, Ride on Time. And we said last time, samples, troubles, pains. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not talk more about that. Number 1 albums, though. We had loads this month. For the first week, Cuts Both Ways was still there by Gloria Estefan. She's holding on.
Holding on tight.
Holding on to that sword. Cuts both ways. For the second week, we had Aspects of Love from the original cast. That was in for a week. This is the album of the musical, The Aspects of Love. A musical with music and book by Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Of course,
lyrics by Don Black and Charles Hart, based on the 1955 novella of the same name by David Garner. And it features the song Love Changes Everything.
Love changes everything.
Love changes everything.
Yeah, no,
Things
I don't like that kind of thing.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's Alfie Ball or somebody like Alfie Bow.
Michael Ball, wasn't it?
Michael Ball, one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the bees. Ball, bow, and biscuits. I don't know.
Them 3. Following that, for the next week, it was We Two Are One by the Eurythmics.
Yeah, 7th album.
Yeah.
Not very good.
I listened to this. I listened to most of this today. The album, as you've noted, it's returned to the rock pop sound of the mid-80s album, certified double platinum in the UK and reached number 7 in Australia.
They're very popular.
It's weirdly MOR. It seems to me to be chasing a very American music, American market.
Yes. Yep, and also it's got Angel on it, hasn't it? Where she walks into an empty room. And that one.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe more tuneful than that. But
I didn't mind the title track, We Two Are One. I thought that was quite good. Got a good bass line on it. But it just sounded like a bit Roxette-y.
I like the early Eurythmics sound. I don't like this version. I just don't.
No. Well, we'll see because this is very guitar-y, but we'll have a track from another band who are a bit of a synth legend, doing a guitar-y track in a bit coming up, and we'll see the difference. Final week, we had Foreign Affair by Tina Turner.
Yeah, huge album, that.
Yeah, huge album. It didn't perform as well as Tina Turner's previous albums, though. Private Dancer and Break.
I know, that weirded me out, that it didn't perform as well. It was multi-platinum multi-platinum in over 13 countries. So how well did the others do that this one is the poor one? This is the poor relation to those. It seems mad. So it's because they measure it by obviously all the countries that, and if you look at the list all on Wikipedia, it tells you exactly how many it sold. And it's millions and millions and millions in every country in the world.
Yeah.
It just seems mad. It's the same. It's like, it's not as good as your other ones. How good did they do?
Very well. Very well.
Goodness me. Anyway, big hits. On that
big hits. Let's get some singles. 3rd of September. In at number 3, it's Every Day I Love You More. Just wanted to tell you that, Graham.
Oh, nice.
Every Day I Love You More by Jason Donovan.
Yeah, not great song, is it?
It's not, isn't it?
No. They dressed him as Tiffany in the video, which was weird.
They did.
Tiny hat. Notice? Tiny hat.
Tiny hat, like Tiffany. Did you see what he wrote in the letter?
He just drew a dick butt. Yeah, I can
just
imagine
drew a dick
he did.
butt and then posted it to someone.
Because he sits there in his bed and
it's not a very good song with his door open.
Yeah, in his huge warehouse-like, flat.
Yeah,
studio flat,
which they've obviously just rented for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Terrible.
Yeah, rubbish. Number 20 is Party Man by Prince.
Yeah.
Question, right? Is this the whole Prince, Batman, all this kind of stuff. Is this peak Hollywood multimedia crossover nightmare marketing film music icon synthesis nightmare? Is this the peak of it?
It's not the peak of it. I mean, this is just the beginning of it. You know,
where did it
gets
get
a lot
bigger?
worse. There's loads of films where we get weird mishmashes of different things. This is a confusing song. I think if it was just a Prince song, you wouldn't bat an eyelid, because it features in the film Batman in one particular scene. Therefore, so the video is all Prince in his weird sort of
Two-Face. They're all got Two-Face like masks on, which is not even in the film.
I don't get it. No, I don't get it. I don't understand. Yeah. I don't understand what duality they're trying to play out. But the music belies the visuals completely. Yeah. And it's from a scene in the film where they're smashing up a museum. So, I don't know. I'm sure I get it.
In summation, I don't understand.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's not a bad Prince song, but it's a terrible Batman movie song.
Yeah, it's awful. And I think that's what annoys me about it.
Yeah.
In at number 25, I just mentioned it, slightly up above, we have Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode.
Yeah, from Violator, isn't it?
It is, this opening single from Violator, yeah.
Yeah. So, I would argue, and probably rightly so in many ways, that this is probably one of the best 80s tracks ever. So
quite possibly, it is a great tune.
Is it Depeche Mode's best? That's a debate Depeche Mode fans can have forever. But I as a track for the 80s, even in the late 80s as it is, this is just an astonishingly good song and performance and everything else. It's just really cool. It's a great track, that is. So.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't add a lot more to that. It's a brilliant song. Just as soon as you hear it, down, 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 down.
Later, of course, there was a version of this by Supergoth. Marilyn Manson did a version of this, I believe.
Did he?
Yes, he did. But it doesn't sound as good as this one, of course.
He did that and Sweet Dreams.
He did Sweet Dreams. He did it. There's a few actually. He did because of course he did Tainted Love as well.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Not Sweet Dreams. Did he do Sweet Dreams? He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yes, he did do Sweet Dreams. Yes, that's on the album Taste Like Children. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Number 32, Hooks in You. It's probably the thought of this next song that did it to me. Number 32 is Hooks in You by Marillion.
Well, this is Le Marillion sans Poisson, isn't it? Because Fish left the band, he floated off, he swam off.
someone caught him. He was swimming, he got hooked.
It was inevitable, wasn't it?
This song is about him. Hooks in You.
It was inevitable it was going to happen. Somebody cast a line out. He was attracted to the little maggot on the end. He got a hook in his lip, and they oiled him off and clubbed him. And then he's out in a keep net somewhere.
Absolutely. And then what's his face? Rick Steinman cooked him over a gentle heat for 10 minutes and enjoyed him with a nice Chianti.
So I didn't actually write down the name of the new singer, but this person, it felt to me like they were impersonating kind of a Def Leppard type sound. It's certainly not a Marillion sound I've ever. It wasn't a bad song actually, but that's probably because it sounded more like Def Leppard-y type.
Yeah, it's all right. It's just 4 years too late.
Yeah, it's 4 years too late. And of course, Marillion, because they were, the Jester's Tears and, that kind of song is what they were famous for, wasn't it?
Hey, dilly dilly.
So, Lavender's Blue Dilly Dilly. This is more sort of, traditional rock.
Standard rock, isn't it? Yeah,
it is very rock. Much so. So, but I don't have a lot of time for Marillion, but once Fisher got caught, then it seems that was the best thing that could happen for me. But
someone had got their hooks in him. They wrote a song called Hooks in You.
Oh, the jokes are endless.
Absolutely. It's the song of 1,000 jokes.
They were sending him a message. He sleeps with the fishes.
He is a fish. Oh, dear. In at number 34, Two Below, is Loving an Elevator by Aerosmith.
Now,
you love Aerosmith, don't you? You love them.
Aerosmith are one of my favourite bands of all time.
They are.
And this song is arguably, I have a few different Aerosmith songs that I really like, but Loving an Elevator is absolutely the Aerosmith mega smash. I mean, there's songs like Dude Looks Like a Lady, and there's loads of stuff that, they're all good. But Loving an Elevator is one of the greatest rock songs of all time, containing, I think, one of the greatest extended guitar solos of all time. Why? Because it's not a diddly-diddly-do, is it? The guitar solo in that, isn't it? But it's not kind of where he's doing lots of, noodling and stuff like that. That guitar solo works completely in context for that song. It's not over the top. It's not lots of fancy, fret-burning sort of arpeggiated stuff. It's a really good rock and roll song. I mean, the video's a little bit cheesy, to the least. But it's from the album Pump, which is also going to come out, as we'll talk about later. But Loving an Elevator is such an iconic track by Aerosmith. It's just mind-blowing how good it is. And even now, I love it. I know every note off by heart. I can play it. It's such a good track.
It's all right. It's not one of my favourite rock tracks, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's all down to personal taste, isn't it? But Aerosmith is a good band. And I like Pump as an album, but it's not my favourite Aerosmith album.
continuing it in our rock triple bill at number 41 is Forever Free by Wasp.
A power ballad from Wasp. I didn't think that was possible. Nobody, even including them, by the sound of it.
No. They should have changed the name to like B for this record. Because Wasps are bastards. Bees are like bees. Bees are gentle and nice. They just go around collecting honey.
Bee. Just for one single, they were Honey Bee. So it's a power ballad. Okay, they're not the right band for this. The lead singer is not good anyway, but he's certainly not in this. He felt to me like he was channeling like an Aldi version of Bonnie Tyler and Meatloaf at the same time. That ain't good.
Is that Bonnie Loaf or Meat Tyler?
I think Meat Tyler, I think.
But if that was the Aldi version, it would just be good bread.
Yeah, it's
pretty
it's not
bread.
good. It ain't good, is it?
It's
he's straining on all the wrong notes. And even on the right notes, he's straining even worse. There's people I noticed on the YouTube video comments, there's people going, oh, this is so emotional, this song.
The music's quite good.
That's what we say about Wasp every time.
B. It's B.
So
B.
Honeybee.
Smith.
What we say about Honeybee every time, as soon as he starts singing, all the cheese grates itself, doesn't it, in the room? It just goes, hey! Anything you've got that's got a crumbly texture is going to just fall to dust. What happened?
I was listening to something the other day and it took the sealant off my bath.
I know. I opened a pack of Rivitas and they're just dust. just crumbled to dust in there. His voice is just vibrating the pack. Yeah. I wanted a Rivita and cheese. All I had was Rivita dust. Nobody wants that.
No.
Nobody's no use for it. You could make bricks out of it maybe, but
you
anyway,
could.
Honeybee, be stung.
There you go. Number 49 is Run 2 by New Order. Or Run. I think it's just Run. I don't know what copied in there. Run by New Order.
Run, Forest.
I mean, you're right. It's a wishy-washy, forgettable song. You're right. Yeah. It is dreary and quite horrible. It is at least more traditional New Order. It sounds like their early New Order stuff, like pre-Blue Monday and stuff. Their earlier albums back then. But it's better, which I prefer, which is at least a step up from that horrible Ibiza nonsense we've had recently. But it's not a great song. It's just a bit dull.
He sounds bored when he's singing it.
Well, they were, weren't they? We saw about when they were recording the album. We spoke about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. They're not into it.
This is a band that have lost all passion.
Yes.
They just don't give a shit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there.
And at number 50 is Express Yourself by NWA. Talking about bands that haven't lost passion.
No, Express Yourself
opposite, isn't it?
Based on the big riff, isn't it? Express Yourself.
Yeah.
With a classic NWA. Famous, this track, for them not swearing on it at all. No curse words on that one.
I did notice, though, I can't remember what it is, but he rhymes something really weird with Buddhist.
Well, that's the talent, that is.
But I was like, you can't rhyme that with Buddhist.
They can. They found a way.
I was like, okay, who am I to tell Chuck D or whatever his name is, or Dr. Dre? I don't know the names of them. But
Ice Cube.
Is it? I don't think it was Ice Cube, is it?
Ice Cube's in NWA, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's him singing, is it?
Yeah, he's rapping on
probably
that.
at the moment sat there going, it's Chuck D! And he's probably like doing that thing.
It's Dr. Dre at the beginning, then it's Ice Cube steps in. When he says, and this is Ice Cube, that's when Ice Cube starts rapping.
Yeah, but it's before then. So that's why I said it wasn't him.
But he rhymes Ice Cube with boob, lube, tube.
Quat
God,
lube.
they don't, because quat lube. Yeah. But yeah, it's off an album that's coming up pretty soon, I imagine. But it's famous for not having any curse words. I'm guessing so it got in the chart or something.
Probably.
Because pretty much every track they released got banned.
Yeah. Why are we getting banned all the time? I don't effing know.
Yeah. Maybe we should call it Hug the Police. That might have been a better option. I can see why they might not.
As you've noticed, though, the video doesn't take a lot of reading.
No. Watch the video and you'll get it. You get what they're sort of getting
immediately.
At.
Yeah,
quite clear. It's quite clear.
Yeah. 10th September, and at number 16 is Cherish by Madonna, or just Cherish Madonna. Should we Cherish Madonna? I listened to this again. I was reminded that I don't particularly like this because I don't like the rhythm. There's something weird about the rhythm to this song. But it's in the chorus, it's in the verses, it's the way the verses. There's a
yeah.
There's an odd
weird thing.
It just rubs me the wrong way, and it's just a bit too. I don't know. It's a bit bland for Madonna at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's weird in lots of different ways. You're right. It is bland because it's nothingy. It's very nothingy Madonna. She's sexing it all up in the video, which doesn't match the song whatsoever.
No.
Then there's a whole load of mer people in it, mer men, mer women. It's like, what's going on? Why are they even in it? What's that got to do with the song? Nothing. Madonna's looking all saucy on a beach. There's mermen and merwomen floating about being caught,
and mer children,
caught in fishnets, and mer children. And then the song's like cherish the What is going on?
Don't know.
I don't get it. Something, I think, somebody had one too many of the old tablets the day before.
Well, I'm from mere women.
Yeah. Maybe we should make the jar lids, fruit shaped. Is that kind of conversation was going on? I think.
Number 37 is Harlem Desire by the London Boys.
It's not a good
London
song,
Boys.
this.
It's not great.
It's not good.
It does have the return of stabby trumpets and orchestral stabs, as you rightly know. And it's probably aimed at you, right, at the gay clubs and remix desks.
Totally aimed at that.
That's where
completely.
it is. But they do look like they're having some fun in that video, though. I have to say, they're putting it all in. And I do like the pantomime of the bridge bit with those crazy orchestral stabs and shocked looks. That made me actually quite laugh out loud. But then it went into the chorus, and then the chorus just kept going on, and it kept going up and higher. And I was like, stop.
Yeah, it's just they start off well, their songs, and then they just kind of drift off into nothing because they're meant to be mixed into another track by that point. See?
Yeah,
you're only really meant to listen to about 2 minutes of that tops.
Yeah.
The middle 2 minutes is the good bit.
Yeah. Number 38 is Mantra for a State of Mind by S Express.
S Express. This is a weak song by them. In fact, I think it's probably the weakest S Express song of all. None of the sampling that made them famous in any way, shape, or form really in here. Leans into boring, plonky house stuff. Totally uninspired, which really surprised me for S Express because they kind of famous for doing that remixing the kind of 70s disco-y bits. There's none of that in this one.
Maybe they just needed one that was a bit more traditional plinky plonky because it was popular at the time.
Yeah, well, he's a big DJ, wasn't he? So maybe it was something to do with that. But I just felt it was really uninspired, considering the big launch out they had. So sad, really.
Number 41 is Love and Regret by Deacon Blue.
Did you
He sounded really knackered.
I was going to say he does. It wasn't my imagination then. It's like he just come in from a 10k run. Right, here's the microphone. Sing that song. Oh, I've just come in from a 10k run. I don't know what accent he's got. I'm just making one up.
But he's Scottish, so not like that.
Yeah, nothing like that. That was Deacon Red. It's very similar to Deacon Blue in many ways. But no, it is a song sung by somebody that's clearly out of puff.
Yeah, it really is. And at number 43 is Sold Me Down the River in Cymraeg. I don't even pronounce it. It's Welsh. YN Cymraeg or something. By The Alarm.
You Too Light. I branded this as. Yeah.
But as you rightly noted, weirdly channeling some Robert Palmer.
I thought that. I'm glad if you got that. And I thought I was imagining it, but no. And then I thought, why would I imagine Robert Palmer? It's not something I do.
No, I mean, I would say I had a small state where I was being haunted by a pigeon who kept singing it at me. But these things happen. We all go through our strange episodes in life. At number 45 is Oi Mi Canto, which means hear my voice, I'm presuming. Or it's Oi Mi Canto, hear my voice, by Gloria Estefan, who won't go away.
Yeah, sounds exactly as you expect it to sound. She looked bored in that video, though, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. And
totally bored.
Suited for where she was.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought that the title of that song sounds like a Cockney welcome. Oi Mi Canto.
Oi Mi little canto.
You dirty canto. So maybe it is. Maybe Gloria Estefan is Gloria, bit of, all right, oi. Oi, me canto. We need Gary does a Cockney accent now and again.
He does.
When he remembers his roots.
Yeah. Number 55 is Regina by Sugar Cubes.
Hooting Icelandic living department store mannequins.
I thought this sounded like a shit Cure song.
Exactly right. Exactly.
That's what I thought. I listened to it. I went, this is just someone did the Cure and did it badly. If
someone got those, those bicycle honking horns you get. If someone gave those to the Cure and said, make a song, and they just went, that's what you get. You get this song. It's really weird. And they should never let that guy ever sing another song again.
Oh, God, no. That bit where he talks about his sweaty armpits. I was like, no, don't like this.
No, it's not good.
No. In at number 57, I thought these were well gone. Name a Number by Curiosity Killed the Cat.
So
I thought these were done.
The smugometer graphic there is brilliant. You put in. Yes, it's so smug. It smugged me out the room. I was like,
yeah. It smugged me right off.
I did. My computer reset itself. It's like no. Too smug for the MacBook Pro. That no.
yeah. Can't have that. Well, no, Macs are quite smug out there, but this name and number.
It outsmugged a Mac. That's how smug it is.
It's like, oh, good Lord. Ben
Code Red.
Code red on the smugometer.
It made me angry. I wanted to slap I was trying to slap my monitor like, God, his stupid cap, knock his cap off. I don't like it.
Oh, wish he was a cat.
Yeah.
And got curious about something.
Kind of.
Anyway, number 63 is Hanging Tough by New Kids on the Block.
The vanguard of the era of the boy bands is upon us.
Yeah, well, we've been getting out because we've had Bros and Brother Beyond and these kind of... And what was that one we saw last week?
Yeah, there was... Oh, God, them. What were they called?
The other week.
I can't remember now. Yeah, there was three of them, the three that came out of the mould from the Stock one.
Yeah.
But this is the beginning of the
Proper.
that era type boy bands. So this is where it starts to sort of... They've somehow evolved.
They found a 5-piece formula. One type of guy for every type of young girl out there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they found the marketing formula. They discovered it, and this one had Donnie Wahlberg in, of course, and his brother briefly, Mark Wahlberg. And Mark Wahlberg, as we know, is the famous actor now.
Well, Donnie Wahlberg was in Saw 2.
Of course he was. Yeah, so they're both.
He's an actor as well. He's in. I think he's in that Blue Bloods and stuff, isn't he?
So which one became Marky Mark? Was that Mark Wahlberg? I guess
that's Mark Wahlberg.
Marky
yeah.
Mark. Yeah, and the Funky Bunch. Yeah. That ain't good either.
No.
I remember this song more for it appearing in the High Scott episode of the regular show, and that's why I remember it. So it's no bad thing. If the regular show's brilliant, and that's a really funny episode. So
there's a bit in it as well. There's a line in it going like, they say something about come and do the dance, but don't, you'll be all right. It won't take long or something. I was like, that's a dubious line.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Yeah. This song didn't take very long to write. Dun, 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 dun.
No, it didn't. Anyway, number 85 is WFL, Wrote for Luck by the Happy Mondays. I'd forgotten all about this song, and then I realised that I actually really like this. This is the one Happy Mondays track that I've got a bit of time for. It sounds, because it's really low key. It's like
it's totally odds.
And I like his lyrics, and it's got some clever little couplets and lines in there, which I quite like as well. And it's odd to see Sean Ryder back then to what, if you watch Celebrity Gogglebox something now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's 30 years ago. We've all changed. We look completely different, but just, it's just odd. But anyhow, I quite like this. It's all right.
Yeah, it sounds like it was put together by an 8-year-old with a Casio. It probably was.
Probably.
But it is very understated for a Happy Mondays track. But I don't think that any of them will have any memory of doing that.
No, probably not. No.
But it's low key, right?
Yeah, it is. And the kind of video's kind of got this sort of real rough and ready feel to it as well, hasn't it? It's like in some club or something, he's just dancing in amongst a big crowd of people. And
yeah. He didn't know where he was.
No, I don't. But it's just a weird vibe
where
to
he
it.
is or what he's doing.
No, he hasn't.
You can see in the video, his mind is elsewhere in that video. He's gone.
Yeah. I quite like the line in it. What was the line? Something along the lines of used to talk the truth, but then you got clever. I like that line.
He's not there in that video, He's just
he's not. But when he wrote that line, that's a good line.
He walks among us, I'll grant you. But just what he is, I don't know. He's a projection of something, I think.
Save your ease till you see his face.
I think that's the emergency version of him. That's the emergency rider. It's just like a hologram appears when Sean Ryder's totally out of action. That's the emergency one.
The defence heads come in.
Yeah.
Right, 17th September, in at number 19 is Don't Let Me Down. Gently.
Don't let me down.
Gently, you have to let me down.
By
the Wonder Stuff.
Gulliver's.
Yeah. Poppy, I like the flow of the lyrics and the chorus. It's one of the few Wonder Stuff songs I've got a bit of time for. It's all right.
It's all right. Harmless enough.
Yeah. Unlike this one, number 31, You Keep It All In by The Beautiful South.
Oof, I never liked them.
Another band that seemed to emanate smug vibes. I always got...
Yeah, I agree with you.
They always like to be they're seemingly too pleased with themselves. Look at the little clever song we've written. Aren't we clever?
Yeah, and they think I think they're a lot better than they actually are. So
yeah.
I don't like them.
No, I don't. Number 32, Blues from a Gun, Jesus and Mary Chain.
Sounded like they'd nicked bits of other songs in this. I'm sure there's a little Depeche Mode sound in there at the start from one of their songs.
Quite possibly. To me, it just sounded like more Jesus and Mary Chain.
Yeah, I'm not into it. Blues from a Gun sounds like a cheesy title. I don't know. Just if you like it, I guess you'll dig it. Like you say.
If you're a Jesus and Mary Chain fan, you're not going to go no. You're going to go yeah. And at number 48, other end of the spectrum, we have Nothing But a Good Time, 1989 by Poison.
Don't understand the re-release. Nothing but it's a good song. It's the only Poison song I've got a lot of time for. because it's actually
okay,
pretty
yeah.
good. But it appears in the My Mum episode of the regular show, which is one of my favourite episodes of the regular show ever.
Yeah,
So
that is
because
a
it's
good one.
such a good sequence when he's just taking him to the cinema and he's giving him popcorn, and it's just brilliant. The whole setup is brilliant for that. But that side, I don't know why it's been released in 1989, nor could I find any reason for it being released. I could find nothing about it.
Maybe in a film or something at the
It
time.
must be something to
Who
do with
knows?
that. It must be.
But I watched the video when they leap off the stage at 55 seconds. It made me laugh out loud because it's completely out of time with the music and slow mo. When they land, they look like they're about to fall over, and it cuts away really quickly.
Yeah, I think way back in 1988 we said the same thing. I think it's just
we
like
might
it's
have
just-
done.
the video ain't great.
No, it's not. Number 51, "Bring It On Down" by Jesus Jones. Yeah,
No.
this is not going to be for you.
No, it's not.
This is one of them songs where, like last week you were going, you're going to hate this. I was thinking, Graham's probably
Yeah.
not going to like this.
Not my
I
thing.
don't mind it. However, I mean, I do hold it accountable because songs like this led to EMF's Unbelievable.
I thought you liked that song.
No, I don't like Unbelievable.
I thought you did. But it was your face. You used to dance that in Gulliver's all the time.
I don't think I did. I'll have to I'll invite you outside for a glove slap moment in a moment. If you besmirch my honour any further.
Yeah, crappy.
hate that
Yeah,
song.
I bracket it all in the same thing for me. It's lots of blue screen in that video, annoyingly as well.
There was. 24th September, in at number 6 is "Drama!" by Erasure.
Not a very strong single for them. That.
No, yeah, it's there. Didn't really go anywhere or do anything.
No, it felt, and the chorus part sounds like Yazoo. It sounds like Yazoo, and they went, "We're not singing that." So they gave it to Erasure, did it for Erasure, because it sounds like a Yazoo chorus.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's got the same sort of Yazoo refrain. It's Yazoo-ly, you might say. Yazoo.
Yeah. In at number 12 is "The Sensual World" by Kate Bush.
There's only one Kate Bush. She does what Kate Bush does.
He just went into a football chant.
There's only one Kate Bush.
Bush.
We've got Kate Bush. Brilliant Kate Bush. Anyway, she does what she does. This is a song from a good album. It's a good song of the same name. If you like Kate Bush, you'll dig it. If you don't, well, you won't like any Kate Bush.
Yeah, it's all right. It's pretty good. It's all right. Unlike the next one, number 14 is "Sweet Surrender" by Wet, Wet, Wet. The smugometer is back.
Knee neck. The return of knee neck. I've been wondering when he was going to come back with his super long, bloody crisp-eating neck.
Chomping down his massive what's-its.
A schmaltzy, weepy-eyed song about guff.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like it was written for someone else. It hints of Simply Bred in there for me. This could be a Simply Bred song easily.
Well, if you listen to the bit at 30 seconds, it sounds exactly like "For Your Eyes Only."
Yeah, again, there's definitely hints of that in there as well.
Yeah.
You're right.
I was
Yeah.
like, what's that? That's something. And it took me a little bit singing on. That's "For Your Eyes Only." You just nicked it.
Yeah,
Bloody
I don't
smugger.
like it.
Smuggo knee
and his
neck.
Neck's as long and as knee necky as ever in that video. Is too many what's-its down there for my liking.
It's been extra need.
Yeah, he has. It's just, no, he came back with a strong neck. And I
Which
don't
would
like
be another
it.
Simply Bred, connection. You need it.
Oh no, knee neck. Yes, it's need neck. It's the amalgamation of Simply Bread and wet bread. Nobody likes that. It's terrible. I don't think anyone wants any of those to be merged.
Simply Wet.
Part baked be their album, wouldn't
Part needed.
it?
All loaf. It's the rubbish RoboCop. Part baked, part needed. All dough.
All bread, the old dough. Yeah.
Dobo
Moldy old
cop.
dough. Dobo cop. Oh
We
dear.
got there in the end. Number 29, "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel.
We didn't though. To be fair, we didn't, did we? We didn't start the fire. I know you didn't.
It's a list song, isn't it? There's just list songs.
Yeah.
R.E.M. had a list song. People have list songs.
Yeah, they do.
Just
Yeah,
list
this one's
things.
got quite a long list, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently, later, well, it's not apparently, there's an interview with Billy Joel where he says that this is the least favourite song he's ever written, and says, and it's actually, he doesn't say he says it's his least favourite because it's the worst musical thing he's ever written. Because he says it's just la 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 la
Yeah,
la la, and it's not, he doesn't consider that very musical, which is fair enough because it's not.
It's not.
But he's come to hate it, I think, because a lot of people, do, oi Billy, do we didn't start the fire. Oh, what about Uptown Girl? That's way better.
Catchy chorus, though,
Yeah. We didn't start the fire.
which isn't.
Yeah.
It was
Is there a more
just the
modern
world
version of that?
returning.
So with some kind of modernised lyrics on it. I don't know. Probably.
Don't know. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
In at number 37 is "Road to Your Soul" by All About Eve.
Yeah, the video's interesting. Who knew Robin Hood was such a good guitarist?
I always thought it was Alan the
God
Dale.
bless Robin Hood.
in the Merry Men. I thought it was Alan the Dale who was them.
Yeah, but clearly in that one, it's Robin.
It's
guiding
Robin
his guiding his, his cart around, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this is
his folk wagon.
This is the start of their tracks from their second album. So this is the first single from the second album, Scarlet and Other Stories. That took a more folksy style than the rockier sound of the first. I do like this track, but the rest of the album is not like this. It's much folksier. And
hey,
not
hey
much,
diddle diddle. Sort
it's
of
not
nonny
quite
nonny
Hey
folk,
Diddle
is
Diddle,
it?
but it's more... If you liked... It's not quite Martha's Harbour, but it's more in the vein of softer tracks like Martha's Harbour and things like that.
Okay.
So I was a bigger fan of the sort of more rockier tracks from the first album, Flowers in the Hair and In the Clouds and things like that. I mean, it's a good album, but it's not as good as the first.
Fair enough. I'll take your word for it.
Which I think always explained why he then buggered off after it to go play rock with the Sisters of Mercy.
Well, did he though, or did he have to go on, back to the Nottingham Forest and
to become the hooded man again? He, had to,
exactly.
he did have to get the okay from Herne the Hunter before he could go play with the Sisters of Mercy.
Well, but at this point, Herne the Hunter was Hernia the Hunter because he'd stretched his groin.
Absolutely, he'd got a right rip in the clanads.
A groinal stretch in the clanads. Oh.
That's not going to heal quick.
No, that's why they're together. It's like, because they have to hold him up.
No lunging for you.
No, not.
Number 54 is Secrets by the Primitives.
Yep, sounds exactly like Primitives.
It does. Yes, it does. Number 69 is Crossroads by Tracy Chapman.
I listened to it and I didn't. It's all right, but I don't remember it at all. I remember Tracy Chapman for the ones everyone remembers, but I don't really remember
this. But I'll just put a note. It's from a time when female artists sounded individual rather than songs in the key of vowels that we have these days.
Yeah, yes, completely 100% agree. They all sing the same way now. They all sing that same way. Yeah,
songs in the key of vowel.
Yeah.
Number 84 is Turn the Tide by Johnny Hates Jazz. Song.
It's so 80s, it's unbelievable. I mean, as soon as it starts, you're in the 80s. You're like, wow. And we're in the late 80s, but it's wow. It's 80s. It's a powerful 80s blast.
We're at the end of the 80s, so I think what they've just poured the 80s into a glass. They distilled the sound of the previous 10 years and foisted it upon an unsuspecting public and said, look what you've had for the last 10 years.
I know. We're into the 90s after I turned that off, I had a mullet. And I don't even have hair.
You don't. That's true.
But then again, I didn't say when the mullet was. So I'm just saying.
I don't even know how that would work, and I don't want to know. Just number 85.
Best we move on.
Yeah, George Best. Number 85 is Overrated by Kingdom Come. They're right.
They're completely right, yeah. Saucy video there, wasn't it, with all the leggy lingerie lady model person. But I think there was a certain point when the band decided they were going to have a backlit sort of stage look and look like silhouettes, which probably sounded great on paper. Then the Hair Shadows, which are not a German Hank Marvin tribute band, sadly. The Hair Shadows, here they are. They began to show, and then when you see the video, you're like, no, that backlit big hair is never good in silhouette. It doesn't work. So
no, I thought he sounded like an Aldi Robert Plant.
It totally isn't it. He's trying to channel Robert Plant, but he's getting more eggplant than he really. He's not great.
It's not good, whatever it is. Wraps through our albums. 3rd of September, number 6 was A Diva with A Diva.
Very soulful singer. If you like a diva, you'll like that kind of thing. Not my jam,
not for me.
I'm afraid.
And at number 35 was The Shade of Red by Redhead Kingpin and the FBI.
Big American hip-hop New Jack Swing group, whatever that means. It's where we need Gary to explain what New Jack Swing is. So, I don't know, featured in the Wes Craven horror movie The People Under the Stairs, which must be out soon, I guess.
I'm guessing so, yeah. 10th of September, we had Aspects of Love straight at number 1 from the original cast.
Love changes everything. Except that song.
Yeah, it never changes. Number 4 was Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue.
Oh, Motley Crue. I can't bring myself to like Motley Crue.
There's some tracks of theirs I do like, and there's a lot I don't. This is one of the ones I like. I really like there's a nice rhythmic opening to this, which is pretty good.
Yeah, the album's okay, I guess.
Yeah, to this song, to the actual track, Dr. Feelgood, the sort of title track, there's a nice rhythmic beginning to that, and it's, Dr. Feelgood's actually quite a decent track. Reminds me sort of thing that Mick Mars is actually a pretty decent guitarist.
They're not untalented people in there. This was actually also Vince Neil's last album with them until 1997, so he took a big gap.
He did.
Guessing to because at a certain point they were like crazy, drugs, alcohol, everything, bit of everything going in there.
This was their rehabilitation album, wasn't it? So they did one album after he got thinking he probably.
I saw an interview with the drummer who was saying that at a certain point they were getting whiskey, and instead of drinking the whiskey, they would actually inject it because it would be more. They thought it'd be getting into the system quicker, so they were injecting neat whiskey.
How are they not
Allegedly.
dead?
Good question. Good question.
Number 24 is Martika with Martika.
Yeah, she could have named that, couldn't she? Could have named it something better than that.
Well, she's just following the Adiva route, I guess.
Yeah, just Toy Soldiers would have been a good name for that.
It would have been, yeah. Just name it after your title track, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 26 is Megatop Phoenix by Big Audio Dynamite.
Yeah.
It's about the Clash.
Not my thing.
No, not the one you're thinking of. It's Mick Jones, not Joe Strummer. The other one.
It's not my thing though. Mega Top Phoenix. I listened to
No,
it.
they were
I'm
never
like,
mine.
yeah.
I remember a friend of ours back then was buying this and trying to get me into him, and he could get me into a lot of things, but not this. I was like, no, it's not, I'm not like. Number 35 is Wake Me When It's Over by Faster Pussycat.
Yeah, please do with them. I didn't like this at all. I didn't like the original variation of metal and this new blues influence nonsense. No, thanks.
No, I thought the intro to this sounded like the beginning of In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, totally does. Because that's the vibe they've gone for, that kind of sound. But it's. No,
I mean, obviously, In the Mouth of Madness is quite a bit later, but I think, but this it just. I think that's where
just
they
hints
took
of
that from.
blues, rock, MOR type stuff in there all the way, and that's not good.
17th September, straight at number 1 was We Toot Our One Eurythmics. We talked about that. And at number 2, though, they kept off Steel Wheels by the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, for some time. I mean, it says their 19th British studio album, 21st in America, because they've recorded some US only ones, I guess.
They must have done.
So it's apparently their major comeback release. I don't know. You either like the Rolling Stones or you don't. There's tracks I like by them, but I'm not. I don't think I could listen to 21 albums of the Rolling Stones. And
No one could. Not even the most ardent Rolling Stones fan.
but you know what follows after this would be the huge Steel Wheels tour, which did. But it was a massive success. I mean, ridiculously successful across the world. I mean, mega selling. So whatever.
True. It's what I find weird though. Sort of thing is we're just doing this and talk about Rolling Stones with the big old comeback. They've just had that again, haven't they? Their most recent album that's come out is supposedly, real return to form. It's like,
Yeah.
And 34 years later, you got to admire that, commitment to the craft.
Yeah, I don't know what keeps them going. Strings, I think. I don't know what it is. But
There ain't no strings on Mick Jagger. It's too jaggy. In at number 3 is Pump by Aerosmith.
We mentioned this, Love in an Elevator. Pump is a glorious album by them. And the 10th studio album as well. So I suppose it should be good because they should be getting better at it. It's on the Geffen label, which I think almost all of their stuff was exclusively. Obviously, it's got Love in an Elevator, The Other Side, What It Takes, which is a great song. Janie's Got a Gun. It's got some mega hits. They all entered the top 40 and also the Hot 100. Lots of big sales. Now, weirdly, this is... it's tied for success with Get a Grip, which was the album that came after this. But it's not their biggest album. Their biggest album remains Toys in the Attic, which came before all of them, and which is a great album, it has to be said, because that's got some classic tracks on there, Dream On and things like that on there. So really good stuff. Now, what can you say about Aerosmith? If you like Aerosmith, I mean, I think they're on their final tour ever, officially. So this is now, but I think Steve Tyler's now in his late 70s. I think must be mid 70s.
Again, I can't believe he's still alive.
Yeah, it's a miracle. I mean, and don't get me wrong, they put in such a great performance live, and I think, but they are reaching their time is coming to an end when they're going to need to stop. But they while they're still capable of playing good music, and they are. But this is a great album. It's got great songs on it. It's a bit less chunky than Permanent Vacation. Permanent Vacation was a great album for them, but I think they felt like it was a bit thick, a bit of a dense recording. There's quite a lot on that, quite a lot of overdubs, quite a big sound. I think they scaled that back a little bit for Pump, so to give it a bit more of a springier sound, and it kind of works. So good stuff. I
mean, like I said, it's got Janie's Got a Gun on it, which is probably one of my favourite Aerosmith tracks.
When they do ballads and when they turn themselves, What It Takes is a great ballad on there, but they do those kind of songs, or Love in an Elevator type songs, really, really well. I mean, they just think, Dude Looks Like a Lady, or better than that, Walk This Way by Aerosmith. I mean, come on. They can turn in a good song when they need to, that's for sure.
Number 6 is Sleeping with the Past by Elton John. His 22nd studio album. Jesus.
Incredible, isn't it?
Released on 29th of August. It's his best-selling album in Denmark.
Random.
It's very random. Features Sacrifice and Healing Hands. Became his first solo number 1 single in the UK.
Yeah, that surprised me massively.
I'd have thought he'd have had solo number 1s for them, but I'd have thought not. I'm Still Standing maybe would have got to number 1.
No, I'd have thought, but apparently not. But I always thought he was always a solo act.
Yeah, I guess.
Did he sing with somebody else? Was it John Elton and the Wheelies or something? I don't
know. Maybe. I'm a little old man. Number 38 is Storms by Nancy Griffith. Never heard of her. Absolutely never heard of her. But I
No.
YouTube what this was. It's her 8th album. Not what I was expecting. Shades of Wilson Phillips, I thought, but wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah.
I was like, it's all right.
Passable. I think we've come across a couple of Nancy Griffith singles, haven't we, before? But I don't
I
know.
honestly couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. None of them were stuck in my head. So, in at number 39 is Home Loving Man by Roger Whittaker.
Aye, Roger Whittaker. He sadly passed away on the 13th of September 2023. So quite recently, really.
Oh, Rog.
Yeah, he's done loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of albums in that kind of tradition of those kind of people that did loads of albums like that.
Yeah,
You know,
he's another Foster and Allen, isn't he?
Yeah, completely. And he famous for his whistling, wasn't he? And Durham Town was his, mega hit back in the 70s, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Did he ever leave Durham Town? Just because he's singing about leaving all the time. I'm gonna leave old Durham Town.
No, because he's a home-loving man.
Exactly.
His title.
So where do you live, Durham? So you never did leave? No, I never left Durham Town. I just.
I love my home. I'm a home-loving man.
I'm a home-loving man.
24th September in at number 1 was Foreign Affair by Tina Turner.
Yeah,
All
of course
straight
it was,
ins.
yeah.
These last 3 weeks have been straight ins.
Yep. Big hit that. Oh.
Yeah. In at number 4, Rhythm Nation 1814 by Janet Jackson.
Well, it answers the question that we had in the last episode, which was because we knew there was a song in the last time we did the singles. There was a Janet Jackson. And we're like, was this off Rhythm Nation? Yes, it was. And obviously, there it is.
There you go. Yeah. So, quick question. You probably know more about it than I do in this kind of thing. And I find it hard to sort of articulate, but did this album define that kind of sound?
Yeah, pretty much.
That sort of staccato, sort of funk.
Yeah, it did. It's very much so. Yeah, the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, the producers of that, yes, and they did that sound very well.
Yeah.
So they kind of invented it, and this is the one that solidifies it. There's been a few other tracks that have hinted at it,
like Paula Abdul stuff,
electro funk, I guess you'd call it electro funk, maybe, or something like that. Paula Abdul, yeah, absolutely. Now, what I didn't get from this was apparently exploring racism, poverty, and substance abuse, and issues of romance and other concepts of socio-political utopia. Apparently, I never got that from the dancing, really.
Well, it's in the lyrics, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's all in the lyrics, all in the dance. But yeah, it is a very good album. It's the production that really counts on that. It is so slick. And it's quite infectious. The tracks on it are good, but it does influence a hell of a lot when it comes to that kind of choreographed electro dance funk type sound that sort of permeates through the early 90s, really, and onwards.
And
actually,
beyond, I would say
sets the
people like
benchmark,
Hit Me Baby One More Time and things like that.
Yeah, Britney Spears, without doubt. Yeah, no doubt about it. When they've, the idea of them doing kind of very synchronized dances and things like that, you can see where it's heading. Even the boy band starts to lean in on that. So.
Number 13 is Change the Alarm.
Is this an album or a command?
Ours keeps beeping, so I think I do need to change ours. Fourth studio album by Change the Alarm. I don't know. It was released in September. Who cares? It's Change.
Yeah.
Sub U2. Number 22 is Errol Flynn by Dogs D'Amour.
I don't like him.
Diggy Skaggs.
The Diggy Skaggs band, yeah. Diggy Skaggs, for those that are wondering why we mentioned that, was the name of an invented tramp, I believe.
Yeah, we made up back in the early 90s.
For some reason. I can't remember why we did it now. But anyway, Diggy Skaggs is the name of a tramp we invented. And yes, when we described what Diggy Skaggs looked like, we didn't actually know that the Dogs D'Amour existed, or we'd have just said, it looks like Dogs D'Amour.
Yeah, there you go. And sounds like them too. Number 31 is Heart Like a Sky by Spandau Ballet, Spandau Bullets.
Spandau Bullets.
Spandau Bullets.
It's the 6th album from them, and I believe the last one.
So could we finally let him near the coastline?
No, he's still banned. You can't.
It may emit that honk, that noise.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. We've got enough coastal erosion. We don't need more of it.
We don't. My comment on this is just, stop. It's already dead. Just stop.
Yeah, totally. Spandau Ballet,
you had your
finished,
time.
Yeah.
You had your time.
Shoes. Yeah, you've done your last pirouette. Thing is, his solo album after that was called Coastal Erosion, in brackets, It's Nothing to Do With Me. But we know that that's not true. Sorry, but you can't do it. Every time you sing, parts of Scarborough disappear.
Album after that was called Cliffside Collapse.
Exactly, yeah. The Red Cliffs of Dover. Yeah.
Are no longer there.
Yeah, they're the white ones now, yeah.
It's nothing to do with me. Hadley!
He bleaches in white with his power voice.
We need to update Hadley's law.
That man can bleach a rock. Anyway, there you go.
Bleach it raw. And at number 37, it's a Big Daddy thing by Big Daddy Kane.
Gary's kind of thing, I think, is the safest option I can say, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, second full-length album by American rapper Big Daddy Kane. Not for me.
No, probably great, but Who knows?
Yeah. Number 41 is Straight Outta Compton, NWA.
Yeah. Now, it surprised me because this came out well early. So is this how long it took to get released in the UK?
Don't know. It said it was a new release.
So I don't know, but anyway, it's the seminal, rap.
I mean, it might be the first
album,
time
isn't
it might have been released previously, but didn't make the charts. And now it might have made the charts.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's
They've released the track, they've released the singles. They've had singles out for a few now, so maybe
it's famous for many, many reasons. F the Police being a particularly famous track on there, and all the brouhaha around that, and NWA's own notoriety. And it's.
Do you mean Hug the Police?
Hug the Police. Yeah, exactly. What was it in Fear of a Black Hat? It was F the Security Guards, wasn't it? That was their version of it.
Number 40. Yeah. And finally, just to round out the month, number 45 is Cocked and Loaded by the LA Guns.
God,
have you seen that cover?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh,
when I saw it, I was like, oh dear.
It's such a fine line.
Spinal Tap.
It's such a fine line.
It is. It's
for those who haven't seen this, it's a gun. It's a very big gun, and a woman she's got sort of stars, chap leaning back on the handle of the gun, pulling cocking the gun basically. She's leaning back and she's got a very small bra on and little else.
Yeah. The album's called Cocked and Loaded.
And, yeah.
I mean, it's drawn, but it's just really cheesy, and I don't know. Just the whole
LA
thing's
has skulls for full stops.
It's just
it's so
mega cheese, and I didn't dig the LA Guns, and that just shows you how spinal tappy they really were.
Do you notice as well, they've gone for that sort of 80s style sort of faded landscape sort of logo across the lettering, but they've used the same colour for the top and bottom.
Yeah, it's got kind of a horror movie vibe because of that, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's not very good, is it? And their music wasn't very good. There we go. That's it. That's the music. You've had enough. We've had enough of that. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back. We've still got 3 more games to get through. I wonder if they'll be any good. See you in a bit. Okay, we are back. Let's get into these last 3 games for this part. And this is it. This is the last one. Not the last game we'll have a look at, but this is the final game from Gavin Rayburn. Rayburn. On the C64. This is the last one he does. This is Rallycross Simulator for Codemasters. And for £2.99, you get, I think, 4 tracks to race on in different parts of the world. So, Mr. Rayburn did everything here aside from the visuals, where he was co-credited with Bob Stevenson. That may have been the loading screen. I'm not sure. But maybe he did title screen, like I said, I don't know. Anyway, when the game loads, we get a decent title screen. It's got a nicely drawn car at the bottom. I think it's a Porsche. Did you think it was a Porsche? Maybe a Porsche of some description?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know what it is. It's side on, but it's nicely drawn. That may be Bob Stevenson bit. I don't know. There's some options at the top, though. Here, you can start a game. There's no story, by the way. It's a racing game. It's a budget racing game. There's no story, so don't worry about that. You can start a game. You can restart the level you're on, which I'll come to in a bit. You can play 1 or 2 players, and you can change from joystick control to keyboard control. That's it. It's very simple. It's a stab of the fire button, gets us going, and the first track loads in. Yeah, unfortunately, this is a multi-load. I'm not quite sure why. I think those tracks could have probably fit in memory.
I think they could.
But, what do I know? But I think they probably could. It's not too bad, the loading on disc. It loads pretty quickly. I don't know why it's there, though, but I don't know what it's like on tape either, so I played the disc version. Once loaded, we see that the game is a top-down affair with the racing scene directly from above. And you probably instantly think, if you know games over the last many years, you'll probably think of games like Micro Machines, games of that ilk. It is that kind of view. And this is because it's very much an early incarnation of that. So it's different to things like Super Sprint, single screen, because it scrolls around. The game takes up the majority of the screen. It's got some UI at the bottom, giving us our score and the time left. And they alternate in the same place. So it'll flick from score to time left. You have to finish the course in the time. I'd have just preferred the time being on screen at all times, so I could see it. But, that's just me. If you're going to give me something to go up against, make sure it's on screen at all times. There's some bars that slowly reduce, and they are for our fuel, water, and oil levels. We have the number of points we've accumulated, which is weird. I don't know. That could have swapped with your score, or that could have been your score. I don't know. And there are 4 icons for the power-ups that you can buy. They are grayed out to start off with, and as you buy them, they will fill in. Once the flyby stops, you're going to get a little flyby, kind of almost Boulder Dash-like. It starts at the top right and then moves to where the sort of game starts. So like the beginning of a Boulder Dash level. So it moves over there. When it finishes, we're directly over our car. There's 2 cars at the starting grid, you and an opponent, either a computer or other player. And we get a countdown in the top left corner. Nice big countdown. 3, 2, 1. It sort of goes, the countdown. And then we get a bit of speech that says, go.
We do.
Go.
Yeah,
It's quite nice.
meaty.
It was. The controls for the game are direction-based, so not the
for
usual
once.
fire for speed and left and right for turn. No, here it's full 8-way directional control. So up makes you go up, left is left, and so on and so on. So, you speed up as you're pushing that direction. Is this better than the normal turn and acceleration method? Sure, we can discuss that at the end. Anyway, to progress through the game, you need to complete 3 laps of each course in the time limit to progress to the next. Failure to do so will spell game over and back to the title screen. It's pretty much that simple. However, if you do make it to the next level, then if you fail that, if you're on the next level and you fail that one, you can choose the second option on the starting screen to start on that level. So that's quite good. But you do so without any of the aids that you may have bought on the previous go. So things might be trickier. It's up to you to try and decide where you want to go. The tracks themselves are littered with hindrances like oil slicks and water and rocks that hinder your progress. And should you bump into the sides of the track, just even a smidge, you are halted and moved back slightly before you can start again, like we've seen in other sort of Codemasters style racing games. This costs you precious seconds, obviously, because you're trying to race against the clock. In order to complete the 3 laps, you'll need to visit the gas station on each course. This is mandatory. Your fuel will not last the 3 laps. And if you run out, then it's game over again.
It is.
To use these gas stations, you simply drive into the forecourt on them, which are slightly off track. You have to sort of the thing is, it's quite annoying because it's a fairly narrow gap to fit through. If you clip the sort of area, just, the barrier going in, then it'll put you back out on the main track and you're like, oh, I'm just losing. Especially if you're really low on fuel. At one point, I lost a race because I couldn't get into the bloody thing and it moved me back and then I ran out of fuel. Annoying. Once you're into the forecourt, there's a great shaded area. You stop on that and then it flicks to a shop menu. There's a nice bit of music here playing and you get to choose some stuff. Time doesn't stop here, though, so you've got to be quick in your choices. You've got to be quick. Completing laps quickly gets you points, so you have to choose what to buy wisely. So you want to be fast in and out of here. You can fill up with fuel, water, or oil. They all cost the points that you're racking up as you're driving around doing stuff. But there are also bonus items to buy. There are bumpers, which allow you to collide with other cars on the track up to 20 times. Normally, you can only collide 10 times. There's a turbo that makes you go faster if you hold the fire button down. There are gas cans, which allow you to carry more fuel. I think your fuel just goes down slower. And finally, there are sticky wheels, which double your traction and stop you from skidding over oil, water, ice, etc. It's up to you how you spend your money, but I found that all I could really do was keep topping up on fuel and water and oil because they all ran out incredibly quickly. I don't know exactly what this car is, but I've never known a car guzzle fuel, water, and oil as much as this car does. Crazy. The courses themselves are short and reminiscent of the ones in that Run the Gauntlet game I thought we played recently. Bit similar to that. Control of the car, once mastered, is tight, I thought, and you can fling it round corners with some rapidity once you get used to it. There's a nice sense of weight to it as you skid out slightly when you turn a corner quickly. Sounds in the game are good. There's they've actually managed to do a non-annoying engine hum, which I thought was all right. I also like the fact that this decreases in volume when you go under tunnels. Smart touch. Nice and atmospheric.
I thought it was good.
And there's a pleasing skid sound as you take hairpins at speed, like a little burp, which is quite nice. The visuals are also pretty good. A nice sense of depth to the objects on the ground, good shading, use of shadows, and your car is well animated as it turns and spins around, and the scrolling is excellent. Smooth in every direction, really smooth, and keeps the player in the middle of the screen. And there's no raster glitches to be seen anywhere. This is clearly Mr. Rayburn he knows what he's doing with the C64 at this point, and everything production-wise, presentation-wise, is spot on. There are also movable hazards on the course as well. The second level has a train, a massive train that stops across the track, making you all wait for it. It was like, then it slowly moves off, and it moves you off while you wait for it. Don't get caught by it, don't drive into it, because it drag you off the screen. It's instant game over if you do. Also, try and get across the track quickly, because there's always trains coming. Should one hit you, take you off the track, and it's game over. Annoying. The 4 levels on offer will take you through asphalt driving, jungles, and deserts. So there's 2 asphalt levels, I think. There's a jungle, there's a desert level, but I only got to see the first 2 as the game. First 2, as the game has one problem, and that's what I said earlier. It is the overzealous shrinking of your fuel, water, and oil. These go down at an alarming rate and mean that you need to make a stop for them every 2 laps. They do not refill between levels either, so you can just make it through to a level, only to run out immediately on the next one. Annoying. The fact that they all cost points means that you very rarely have enough to buy the upgrades, as just keeping the car running ate all my points up. I don't know if this is some sort of comment on modern inflation. I don't know. With these stops costing time, the second level with its train parking across the map just meant that I kept failing here, despite restarting with full fuel, etc. Because I'd just be sat there waiting, and then while you're waiting, your fuel's going to... It's like, oh, for God's sake. I couldn't make it through. I tried and tried and tried. I was quite enjoying this. I don't know, maybe it was me. The combo of a narrow track, and it's a bit of a windy track as well. So you remember, you've only got 8-way direction, and the track moves it doesn't always have 8 ways, so it might go down at like, say, 20-degree angle, and you've only got 45 or naught. You're like, I don't know how to get through here properly. You're kind of skidding all over the shop trying to get through this at any kind of speed. And the smallest clip of the side sends you back, costs you time. Oh, it's just can get quite frustrating. The need to refuel, the train stops. I just kept running out of time. And it just led to me giving up in frustration, which was a bit of a pity because there is a lot to like here. I thought, we've talked about these kind of controls before. I don't mind the left, right, and fire, but I thought the controls pretty well. I thought once I got used to them, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it looked and sounded really good, and everything about it is actually pretty decent. I just don't know why they put the constant need to stop and refill the car. It just takes all the fun out of it. Who wants that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's just boring.
Don't do that in rallies, just a note.
No, just let me put more laps in. 5 laps in the time limit.
Yep.
Or lower the time limit. I've consumed they've only put it in sort of thing to lengthen the, you're going to have to really struggle to try and get through, because I did. So it's one of those games where they've just made it arbitrarily, stupidly difficult to make it through. And, that's what I found anyway. And because of the nature of the clipping and the pushing back and the waiting and the trains, and it's just annoying me. It just made me, did a Lord Humongous and eventually just walked away from it. I couldn't help it. Bit of a shame. It is a decent budget game, this. And I think if you bought this back then for £3, you'd be more than happy with it, and you'd throw your head at it time and time again to try and get around and through the 4 tracks. And there's a decent lot. And like I said, the visuals are good. There's lots of stuff going on. And it's interesting to have those kind of things like trains and stuff going across that do thingy. But that choice of fuel, water, and oil just going down all the time, it's just annoying. Just kind of just ruined it a little bit for me. That's what I thought anyway. What about you?
Yeah, I've written pretty much exactly the same thing. Nice jaunty music, bit of slowed in, but okay. Decent top-down racer in the tradition of those kind of things. I thought the graphics looked really cool. And I thought the controls, for once, I quite enjoyed playing it. I thought, okay, this is good. And then you hit the fuel thing and the water thing, and you're like, why? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
All those little tricks, the sound trick when you go through the tunnels, the courses are quite varied, interesting details on them and all those things. Just why did you do that one thing? But like you said, I think in reality, they've done that to make it so that the game feels a bit longer. Because I think take them out and you'd be through this in no time. But there's ways they could have made it better for that. But for £3, all right. It's still a bit cheeky to do that, but it's a good package of game. And the graphics and everything else sell it quite well. And it's one of the better ones of those, apart from that one thing, like you said. Other than that, I thought it was pretty good. And I think 80%, I don't know. I would have given it less purely because of that silly thing, which does actually make it more or less impossible. I think you'd have to, I don't know what crazy skills you'd need to be able to get around on that to avoid your fuel running out. Because I same as you, I just couldn't. So
I don't know if I was doing something wrong but...
Well, I encountered the same thing, and I tried it every which way I could, and there was simply seemed to be no way for me to be able to do it.
Yeah, because the first thing I did was I bought a gas can, thought that'll make it go slower. But then I filled my fuel up, and then I was like out of oil and water, and I was like, and I didn't accrue enough points to put that. I was like, if it was just fuel, not fuel, oil, and water again, but having 3 things.
It's one of those games where there's a trainer available on the game, on the cracked version or whatever. Put the trainer on and just give yourself a little bit of a. It might make it more enjoyable to play through it as opposed to just keep stopping and starting, and you might find it a bit more fun. But other than that one niggle, which is a big niggle, I suppose, really, it's a pretty enjoyable thing, all said and done.
Yeah, there we go. Rallycross Sim. A neat way for Mr. Rayburn to sign off his C64 stuff. And obviously, Rallycross Sim, he'll then go on to work on the Dirt games, Dirt Rally, I think, and then go on to run Playground Studios and make all the Forza Horizon games.
Yeah.
So he's got much driving ahead of him in his future from this point on. I think he works on the TOCA games as well on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, I think.
He obviously knows his onions.
He really does. He throws his driving onions anyway. There we go. That's Rallycross Sim from Codemasters. It's all right to ruined by one thing. Let's move on. See what we've got coming up next. Graham, it's another budget title. It is. It's time for you to enjoy the thrills of Blue Thunder.
Aye. All right. So Blue Thunder was originally by Richard Wilcox Software. Richard Wilcox Software became Elite. So this is technically Elite's first game. This is the very first game they ever made. Very first game Richard Wilcox ever made, I guess. The creator was Val Franco, though, so I think it must at some point have been a Spectrum thing. And it is out on the other formats. But This came out in 1984 originally.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was, Elite's, technically Elite's first game. There's a few things to note, really. The blurb says, Blue Thunder, after skillfully piloting your jet copter through a bombardment of electronic storms, ground and sea-based missiles, and attack from armored barrage balloons, you thought you were safe to complete your mission. But no, yet another wave of deadly jet fighters appear from nowhere. They have only one objective, to eliminate you. Only your hyper-phased lasers and amazing arcade skill can keep you alive to complete a task that looks impossible. As the only survivor of a once mighty invasion force, you must penetrate deep beyond enemy lines, and from a remote island protected by a complex defensive screen, you must rescue your comrades and return them to the fleet. But they are held captive beside an unstable nuclear reactor, which you must first destroy. This is a mission for a jetcopter, codename Blue Thunder. Okay, exciting
So it's
stuff.
nothing to do with the TV show.
Well, no. But now I went back. I thought I'll go back in time. Let me have a look at what they said about this in 1984, because I know what I think about it in 1989. So it didn't get reviewed in Zap. Obviously, Zap didn't exist in 1984.
No, it did not.
But according to Commodore User back in 1984, they said it had good graphics and was somewhat addictive. Okay. CNVG in 1984 said run-of-the-mill rescue Zap, but with some interesting twists in the gameplay. Okay. And a magazine I've never heard of called TV Gamer in 1984 said it's quite a nice game. Okay. So I think because it's called Blue Thunder, it must be based, and it's got a helicopter, therefore it must be based on that. Whether it's licensed officially or not, I doubt. But and a Blue Thunder was one of the super vehicle shows from the 80s, similar to Airwolf. This TV show featured a quasi AH-64 Apache gunship, although in fact it wasn't a gunship in the TV show. It was an Aero Specialis SA-341G Gazelle light helicopter made to look like an Apache gunship with blocky stuff. In the movie, by the way, I don't know if you know this, in the movie Blue Thunder, he actually blows Blue Thunder up at the end. He destroys it.
Yeah, he walks away from it and blows up. He walks away from an explosion, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, he does, yeah. So anyway, but the TV series is kind of a riff on the whole, vigilante military guy rights wrongs and tackles groups of guys with a massively well-armed gunship. Distinctly advantage, I think. Advantage
that can engage whisper mode.
Someone's been cheating at a card game, all you hear is and the gunship always rises from below some horizon line and appears, and then, you've got that famous, front view of what's meant to look like a helicopter. By the way, that leads me neatly to the cover. The original cover for this is inexplicable. I'm guessing that the person who drew that had never heard of helicopters or indeed airborne vehicles of any kind. Because what they've drawn there is no helicopter that I recognise. In fact, it looks alarmingly like a kind of a balloon with, I don't know what that is.
It looks like something out of the Yellow Submarine cartoon.
Yes, I think someone described helicopters to him, and that's what he imagined they look like. Yeah.
And shaded.
And covered in nondescript alien writing. It looks like from V.
It looks like he's got a big smile as well.
It's really weird. And the ships, the airplanes it's fighting against, they're all sorts of scale wrong. It's all wrong. It's all completely badly wrong. Anyway, we'll maybe put an image of that. That's a debate for another time. Anyway, so the game then very much in the Choplifter Fort Apocalypse vein. No way, that's what it is. Nowhere near as good as either of those though. And not that they say they were great, but this is a game. It looks like an early 80s Spectrum port because that's what it is. It was also out on the Atari 400-800 as well. Oddly, they all scroll right to left. Them variants. The C64 is the only one that goes left to right.
Is it?
Why, I don't know. Yeah.
Weird.
Go right to left. Weird. And also, the Atari one has no rotor blades. It looks really weird when you fly that with no rotor blades, just like a bulb. Anyway.
Our helicopter has no blades.
It's not so much Blue Thunder, that one.
We have the teal Thunder.
Yeah, it's the Aldi Blue Thunder, yeah, no rotor blades. Our bun has no seeds.
Exactly.
Anyway, once you pass the title screen with its high-res Spectrum look and feel and deep exploration of the colour blue, you'll note the UI, which sits at the top of the title screen, is also in the game. So that ain't going to change. To be fair, it's resplendent in yellow, blue and red, giving you the current score, high score, number of helicopters or jetcopters you have remaining, amount of fuel, and the number of men you have rescued. Clearly, we're outside the realms of equality and diversity. At this point, Blue Thunder rescues only men. Just so you know, no one else is getting rescued today. Anyway, start the game with a tap of the fire button, ensuring it's plugged into port 2, and so begins your exploration of the blocky and blue and grey world of the game. The UI remains at the top, the remainder of the screen is given over to the game. You begin on the deck of some kind of warship, filling up with fuel before you head into the azure blue and cloud-filled skies. To prevent you from completing your mission, you will encounter enemy gun placements that will shoot at you, a variety of flying enemies now and again, including balloons that will drop bombs on you inexplicably, and buildings, etc. You'll also encounter deadly clouds. Deadly clouds. Solid clouds. Solid helicopter killing clouds. I just want to, just for a moment, let's pause for just a moment here. Clouds are, by definition, a visible aggregate of minute droplets of water or particles of ice, or a mixture of both, floating in the free air. So basically tiny, tiny, tiny drops of water. It's no bigger than the size of an amoeba. If they were totally solid like icebergs, they'd fall from the sky and land on the ground, causing all sorts of damage.
They would.
That is gravity, I'm afraid. Gravity does that. So, and let's face it, if the aviation industry, it would be very different, wouldn't it, if they had to tackle skybergs? Thankfully they don't, but in this game you do. So in this game there's helicopter destroying clouds, and that's really stupid, especially a game based on a futuristic war-based helicopter of the future. So you can't fly through the clouds, which is really dumb.
Yep.
Really dumb.
Yep.
Just turn the sprite collision off for those. That's all you need to do. Not,
Just making characters.
Yeah. Maybe they just couldn't. Anyway, you control your helicopter, jetcopter, in pretty much the same way as Choplifter or Fort Apocalypse. Left and right will turn, pushing in those directions will move, centralized by sort of moving to the right or to the left, and it will sort of go into a middle position, and you can hover, and you can also go up and down. Fire button shoots. You must essentially navigate the various blocky buildings and environments, shooting out the generators, and then thus allowing you to land and rescue the men who will, when you get to that bit, emphatically wave at you in their little pixel-like hands. Now, bear in mind, you've got to navigate Blue Thunder into some really tiny spaces. Call me old-fashioned, okay? But it seems to me that instead of flying a helicopter into a barn or into a very small building, just blow the building up. Just blow the whole building up. The whole damn building. You don't need to, you don't need to go inside. You don't often see military exercises where the gunship helicopters fly inside the buildings. It's very difficult to do that. It's tiny spaces, tight quarters prohibit roving. I think it's safe to say. That's what probably the warning they get. Anyway, it is what it is. It's a 1984 game, isn't it? It looks like it, sounds like it, plays like it. It's in a time when some of the rules for this kind of thing weren't probably quite figured out. Maybe even some of the coding wasn't quite figured out. It has a single helicopter sprite, blue, of course. Note that it wasn't called Blue Thunder because it was blue. But okay. With some simple animations that I guess kind of work. When I say simple, 2-frame, on, off. Rotor blade on, rotor blade off. Do it. If you flick it between it fast, it looks like it's flying,
it's the Mr. Miyagi design of rotor blades. Blade on, blade off, blade on, blade off. He's back in blade
I suppose
form.
it does look like a helicopter, which, and again, easily lifted from the sort of aforementioned Choplifter. It looks like the one from Choplifter.
Yeah, it does.
The rest of the graphics are a blocky, badly drawn mass of horror. Big block splodges of green, clumps of grey. Maybe it's a building. Maybe, I don't know. Oddly badly angled buildings that are later drawn that aren't the buildings you're bombing. So sometimes there's just like a really badly angled shack where the prisoners are in, drawn in kind of black outline. It's really, it's not great. It's not good. And that's where they've been living for a while. No wonder they want to get out. So there's not a lot of detail in it, of course. Just about all you need to kind of look like something, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It's of their time. I suppose it aligns more closer to the Atari version of this in the sense of the blockiness, but it's not as good as the Spectrum or the Atari one. The sound is as you'd expect, the kind of token chuff, chuff, chuff noises you type, from the rotor blades, that kind of thing, booms, crashes. The noise filter's getting a good workout for this. Mm-hmm. In 1984, this wasn't pushing any boundaries, was it really? And there's already better games out there. And Elite released Airwolf 1 year later. So it's probably a first game. And as a first game, I don't know, is it derivative and dreary? Yes, but it's a tip of a spear for Elite. Maybe it's important for that reason. Clearly, it wasn't long before Elite were doing other better stuff, maybe. As a budget release in 1989, though, it's a pretty crap show, isn't it? I mean, would you want to release this? Are you proud of this, to release it as a budget game? Go, check this out. This is an early bit of nostalgia. No, I'm not sure there was ever an audience for this anyway. And so if you're trying to engage the nostalgia drive and conjure up any feelings from yesterday with this, you're going to fail. Because people are going to look at this and go, wow, that was crap. Anyway, you're not winning anyone over with this. 48%. I think it's stupidly high for a game like this. It's £2, all right, maybe, but it's ridiculously high for a game like this. Give it what it deserves. Oh, don't release it. That's probably the best thing. Leave it in the history books. This one didn't need to reappear. Blue Thunder got blown up for a reason. You could have done the same thing. Just blow it up.
The TV show lasted about 13 episodes, didn't it?
Exactly, yeah. It's just, naff. Not very good. You'd be upset if you got this. And even going back and looking at it from the nostalgia perspective, it ain't very good. So maybe it's got a tokenistic nod because it's Elite's first game, essentially. But other than that, not very good. What about you?
They're really pissing me off at the moment, Elite, with these sort of budget releases. Because they've decided to
cash
release...
grabbing, crazy.
Yeah, they've just decided to release anything on that Encore label. So we've had Turbo Esprit, Cockatoni Wilf, Saboteur 2, Deep Strike. It's like, stop. just stop releasing these garbage.
Yeah, this is an encore nobody wants.
Nobody sat here going, yeah, more Blue Thunder, more Deep Strike. Woo! Rubbish. God, Lord. This, I don't know why this looked out of date in 1984, I think. I think
it did.
Because I thought to myself, what came out in 1984? We had all those games from Activision.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had things like Beachhead.
Park Patrol.
Yeah, we had Beachhead, Park Patrol, Forbidden Forest, Summer Games.
Yeah.
There's loads and loads of cracking games that came out that we looked at in way back in episode 0, way back. And this was bad then. It's bad now. It's a poor game, even considering its 1984 heritage. And why is it called Blue Thunder? It has no. It's just we'll call it Blue Thunder. I'm sure like Paramount, whoever owns Blue Thunder, won't notice. It's got nothing to do with the film or the TV show aside from having a helicopter in it. Clouds that block bombs, kill you, homing missiles that can barely be avoided because they track with the scrolling. Yeah, it's just annoying. It's awful. It was awful in 1984, and I know that because I had this on a turbo tape. So I had this back then, and remember thinking it was rubbish back then. It got one play, I think, if I seem to remember rightly. Yeah. But oh god, this is awful, and it was never loaded again. And that's me back in like 1984, 85 when I was first getting some games and stuff.
Well, Fort Apocalypse was a turbo tape, and that was way better than this.
Yeah, exactly. I think I played Airwolf more than I did this, but Airwolf was obviously later. But there was I had this turbo tape, and I think it's the turbo tape that did the rounds. In Grimsby, there was one turbo tape that had about 20.
Buck Rogers on
games.
it.
Buck Rogers, all that kind of stuff. So there was loads. Yeah. And I think it obviously got copied from someone did it, and then it did the rounds. And so all these early games, when you first got Commodore 64, there was just, here you go, I've got this tape. Tape this.
Yeah.
You sorted for ages. This was on there, I'm pretty sure of it, and it was bloody rubbish. And it shouldn't have been re-released. There's no point. There isn't £2 worth of entertainment here. Not in 1989. No. Crap. All right, calm down, and we'll move on to the next one. And our final game for this week is Dominator. I have to say it in that voice. Dominator. Dominator to you and I.
Dominator.
Dominator. This is from System 3 and the mind of Mark Cale himself.
If he didn't say so himself.
He did. There's a story to this one. I'm going to read it to you straight from the manual. If I can read this, because I made it very small. We at System 3 are continuing in our endeavour to provide you, the games player, with hours of exciting entertainment. There's nothing to do with the game. This is just Mark Cale waffling on. Hours of exciting entertainment through challenging imaginative gameplay. And the latest product of this endeavour is now at hand. Dominator. Capitals and bold. Dominator is a shoot 'em up, but like all System 3 products, it is designed with a difference to create a new genre in this type of home computer software. Okay, Mac. It's a 4-load product. Dominator oozes dynamic arcade-style action. It has breathtaking graphics and animated gaming zones, which scroll both horizontally and vertically. You are the Dominator, the sole survivor of a crack air fighting team called upon by fellow mankind to control and destroy an horrendous threat to Earth's existence. Duty compels you to venture inside and destroy the menace by obliterating its vital organs. We wish you good luck with our exciting new product and look forward to entertaining you long into the future. Mark Cale. Thanks, Mark. It's very good of you.
Cheers, Mark.
Yeah,
thanks.
Cheers, Mark. Cheers.
Mark Cale, everyone.
Mark Cale. You're a week.
Mark Cale.
The game itself, the story for itself, again, this has to be read. I'm going to read this. Shrouded by a veil of secrecy, a latent vacuum in the cosmos was to give rise to the dawning of a new era.
Isn't the whole cosmos a vacuum?
I don't know. It gave rise to a dawning of a new, the cosmos, whatever, a latent vacuum, just a vax or a Dyson floating in space somewhere.
Shark.
Set your mind to sci-fi nonsense. The words death and destruction needed reclassification as the gradual metamorphosis of the ultimate killing machine spelt out the fate of whole galaxies. It had begun to move. Okay. Millions of miles away lies Earth, planet once wrenched into unwanted confrontation with an amoral and hideous alien race, wanting merely to expand its catalogue of occupied star systems. Men, women, and children had fought the unwanted visitors. Only hope fired their existence, fueled by the bravery, determination, and sheer guts of Earth's crack defense fighter pilot team.
Say crack.
Crack. Yeah, it's in speech marks, crack. They pulled us through, went the cries on the streets when the visitors were eventually beaten. And beaten
Sounds like it
well.
needs pulling through.
beaten well. Compassionate tears flowed, for these men on earth mourned the closest ever annihilation of its population. Blood-stained lives entwined to rebuild with a passion and commitment never seen before. That was then. This is now. Only one hero pilot remains alive. He is the sole survivor of a unit that had been allowed to grow old and dwindle back into the earth for which he had fought so proud. A false sense of security infiltrates the star system as no new blood contemplates the rigorous training and commitment of such a future. This man is bitter. He shuns society for its broken promises. He yearns to lose himself in battle once again, reminiscing friends and times that had been, and relentlessly he polishes his beloved battle-weary spacecraft with the broken depiction Dominator scrolled along its side. In those earlier years, he was known as the Dominator, a title he strived to keep whenever his vision was blurred by nostalgia. Warnings, SOSs, and stories of total planet absorption had been banded around a terrified solar system for some time now, but had been conveniently overlooked by spineless, bureaucratic so-called leaders. And now it was too late. This was incomprehensible. They're not kidding. This was immense. Its vast appetite was closing in on Earth, and the putrid smell of partly digested nations hung ominously in space above a society that had refused to believe that its very existence could ever be in question. Who could fight? Who would dare go inside the mutant horror and battle against its bodily defense mechanisms, to obliterate its sustaining organs, to stop its crazed hunger stampede across the universe? It started an inquiring whisper, mounting in a crescendo of international hope and worship. Mankind needs you, the Dominator. You need to fight. It needs to feed.
Right, okay.
I had to read it all because I couldn't not. I'm sorry. I couldn't not. I hope you enjoyed that, listeners. That's what's written in the manual. There's 2 pages of utter nonsense.
Gibberish.
Do you feel enthused now to play the Dominator?
I feel more confused than ever. How long has he been polishing his spaceship for?
I don't know. It needs to feed. What is it? Who cares? Oh,
how shiny is his spaceship with all that polish?
I don't know, but he's a bitter man. A bitter man.
Why is there smells hanging around in space?
I don't know. What is it? It's putrid smells of partly digested nations. What's that smell like?
And why is it in space?
Yeah, you can't have smells in space. There's nothing to carry these smell
who smells
particles.
it? Who smells it?
I don't know. It hung ominously in space, though.
How?
I could pick that apart for the rest of 2 hours, but I'm not going to. It's just nonsense. Aside from the mind of Mark Cale, who I think was on one, this was produced by Jonathan Dean, coded by Jason H. Perkins, a Gremlin stalwart, who's obviously jumped ship.
He is.
It's got graphics by Paul Doherty, Doc, and Hugh Riley, and music by Matt Gray. This is a multi-load game, and as it loads, you get a nice loading screen of a spaceship flying and shooting at stuff in space. Not digested nations, just some stuff. And there's a suitable dark tune from Mr. Gray, which is all right. Pretty decent. The music here is all right. It's typical. I would say this is very typical Matt Gray music.
Totally.
Heavy on the thumpy.
Yeah, very thumpy, yeah.
Yeah. The title screen is another decent tune, heavy on the thumpy and the credits, but little else. And that is one thing I thought was missing here. No high score table, which is odd for a shooter.
Yes, isn't it?
Because that's what this is.
Different kind of game, remember, Adrian? Different kind of game.
It's a different genre from a normal one. It's got scrolling in both directions. Yes. Anyway, after all that sci-fi twaddle, what we have here is a combo of Light Force and Salamander. And in fact, Salamander is the clear influence here. But, you'll see how we go. Pressing Fire gets into the game. At this point, you might be forgiven for thinking you are playing a follow-up to Light Force. I thought it was.
Yeah, very similar.
So this part is a vertically scrolling shooter where you control a wide ship, too wide if you ask me, one of the complaints said about Light Force.
Too wide.
And you need to shoot wave after wave of enemies as they come from both in front of you and behind. It's a shooter. It's a vertical scrolling shooter. It shoots shit. You make it through these, and if you can kill the end of level boss, then weirdly, your little Dominator craft flies into the creature that you've just blown up. And the next level loads, and the game turned into a horizontal shooter with all the trappings that they have. So you have to navigate 3 levels of tight quarter shooting as waves of enemies assail you. In these parts, you can pick up power-ups for your ship, such as rear guns, lasers, blaster cannons, and auto fire. You can also get extra speed by picking up icons with a T on them. As you move through the first level, you pick all these up, and you need to destroy mid-level bosses as you progress. And the levels see you move from an organic alien level to a more factory metal type level with weird structures in the backgrounds. And the final level sees you flying what looks like a giant mouth. There's giant teeth sticking out from the walls, like you're going through a head or something. And your final boss is a giant brain. Sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure we fought a giant brain in other games. And that's it. 4 levels of tough standard shooting. I don't think this is a new genre. It's a shooter. There's plenty to blast. The scrolling is smooth throughout, although there is a little raster flicker on the first level at times. The graphics are a mixed bag, I thought. There's some good designs at times, but others really garish and rather messy colour usage. I don't think it sort of all fits together properly. And there's a weird mix. And they've tried to do, I think, what the Catechist and Daenerys did in sort of mixing, and what we saw a bit in that Phobia. They've tried to mix high res and medium res.
Yes.
And it's not quite worked as well here. Doesn't work as well. There's no in-game music as well. So there's just a shooting. So we get a lot of pew-pew and explosions and the like, but there's nothing of any note really. It's all quite competent, but with the recent slew we've seen of top quality side-scrolling shooters, this just doesn't hold up. The vertical scrolling opener is a misstep, in my opinion. I think it's a big misstep. I think I would have rather had another horizontal level to blast through. The ship's too big in this section, and it just feels like an inferior Light Force. If I want a vertical scrolling shooter, then I'll go play Terra Cresta or Slap Fight or Light Force. All are better than that level, all of them. Like you said, you're too big and the paths are too narrow and death is too annoying. Once you're into the horizontal bits, the only thing I did like about that opening section is you could just hold fire for auto fire. That's the only thing I liked. And you fire from both sides. Like, pew, 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 that's very cool. But once you're into the horizontal bits, you lose the auto fire, which you had in the previous level. So now you're back to hammering the fire button and slow fire until you pick up auto fire. It's like, why would it be in the body of a ship when they've clearly already got the technology to have auto fire on their ships? Doesn't make sense. The rear blasters too, they're not rear guns. They swivel as you move back and forth, so they either shoot up and down or at a diagonal. I'd rather just have them fire backwards because there's stuff coming in behind me. And this feels annoying because as the change direction as you're moving, lining anything up with them is a pain. It's what we saw in Forgotten Worlds. It's that, it's a pain in the ass. The laser is okay, I guess. The game also does that thing where death removes everything you had, and there's no levels of power to the upgrades to have them downgraded instead of just losing them. So you get the weapon, they're fully powered, that's it. You die, everything's gone. And you just no time. I think one upgrade comes on. And no, this feels like an attempt to make Salamander to me. That's what it seems to feel like. It's like somewhere in the middle of our Salamander and R-Type, but comes nowhere close to that game in either feel or blasting or level design. It's twitchy. The collision detection saw my shots not registering from time to time, and having shooting power-up stop your bullets is a stupid inclusion if shooting them does nothing. This is taken from Armalite, but they forgot the part where in Armalite you shoot them to change the power up, or like what we see in Swiv or things like that, where you shoot stuff to change what it is. This just has your bullet stopping and nothing happening. Stupid decision. You've got games like Armalite, Catechist, Salamander, R-Type, Daenerys. There's a slew of budget shooters. There's that's Slayer. We've had loads of stuff. We've had some really good vertical shmups on the market. Like I said, Terra Cresta, Slap Fight, Light Force. There's tons. This brings nothing new to the table. All that waffle and blurb in the thing is just nonsense. It's generally weaker than all of those. It feels pointless at this time in the C64 market. But some of those games are probably going to be on a budget label soon, if not already. 10 quid for this? Nah, it's serviceable at best. If you were desperate for some horizontal scrolling or some blasting action, and you completed everything else and you wanted something else to play, you can play this. But I think put IO in there is better than this. Synapse. There's tons. There's loads that are better than this. I thought this was a bit of a disappointment. What did they give it? Zap. They gave it 75%. I think that's it. This is a 6 or 7 out of 10. This is a 60 odd for me. It looks all right, but it's just been done before better and better and better time and time again. Ain't no Dominator, that's for sure. What did you think?
Big names attached to this, wasn't there? System 3 and everything else. But it's got Mark Cale's classic BS streak all the way through it. So all that guff you read out, that's just all the marketing sales spiel that Mark Cale famously pumped out of his bloody whatever orifice he was spouting it from. I mean, all right, and there's no denying the guy's enthusiasm for his products, and I get all that. It's important that you do that. Fair enough, fair play. But this game isn't doing anything very interesting, is it? It's a nice loading screen, decent music, like you say. Good start, actually. Decent title screen, nice and simple, missing things, but as you've said, but good enough. With music, had hints of Panther a little bit in there as well. But it's, it's all good. It all sounds good. Level 1, top down, like you say. Okay graphics, some decent sprite work in there. Nice explosion sprites and animations and stuff like that. All the usual stuff, just not very exciting or original in any way. It's doing nothing original at all. In fact, it's doing things that other games have done better.
Yep.
And then when it goes to the side-scrolling sections, which is obviously levels 2, 3, and 4, well, there's loads of games that do this better. Armalite being a key one here. But let alone Armalite, Delta, Catechist, R-Type, Nemesis, Salamander. Any of those are doing what this is trying to do better than this.
Yep.
So again, what surprised me was the graphics for this, because I thought some of the graphics in the first level were okay, actually. And I thought if they carry that on, there might be some decent graphics in this. There might be some IO style graphics, but they're not. The graphics are actually pretty, like you said, a mixed bag, especially on these side-scrolling levels. So Kathos was the key thing really there, was it's not very exciting. So you go into blast, you get the extra weapons, you shoot backwards and upwards and downwards and all the things you might expect to do, but the graphics in the background's not very detailed, they're not very good, and are generally not as good as the sprites in the first level. Yeah. When you get to the level 3, more side-scrolling, okay graphics again, but nothing exciting, nothing different, more of the same. More hints of R-Type in that level as well.
Very much so, yeah.
Some of the enemy types in it. But we've seen it before in R-Type, Catechus, and Daenerys, loads of them. And then when it comes to the final level, you're actually inside the monster all the way through. It's like you shoot the heart, they're on a end levels. And the scenery is destructible in some of this, which is interesting. So there is a bit of that. But, you can't make any mistakes at this point. One mistake, it's really tight quarters. One mistake, you're dead. It's very punishing. It's not an easy game. And then by the time you get to the end and you're shooting at the brain thing, the bosses at the end are actually just alarmingly simple as well. They don't require to shoot them in multi-parts. Just shoot them until they die.
Yeah.
And then the ending for this is rubbish, isn't it? The ending, the words shit out, scroll onto the screen, scroll off, end of game. That's it. After all that, that's it.
After all that sci-fi nonsense in the blur, you'd have thought you'd have had something.
Exactly, which means that it just doesn't live up to the expectation of a System 3 game or anything that's been put in there. So, nah, nothing exciting. 3 levels of a side-scrolling game that have been done better in every other side-scrolling game that we've played, including some of the ones with not as good as this and much lower price. Level 1 has been bettered by loads of other top-down games. This is doing nothing new. It's nothing new exciting. Music's good. Some of the graphics are quite nice, but some of them aren't. It's a bit hit and mix. For a game of this caliber, with the caliber of people involved, it doesn't feel like there was any passion in it. It doesn't feel like they cared. Whereas with Armalite, you felt that they really cared about that.
Yeah.
This doesn't have that kind of feeling. It feels like Mark Cale really cared about the story, and I think he's desperately tried to wrap what is a very average game in some fancy packaging, but you can't hide it. You can't hide average by trying to put a load of BS around it. We've seen it time and time again through the life of this podcast. Average games, when you get to the game itself, never mind all the BS you put in the manual, when you get to the game itself, if you're not doing anything interesting, it's very quickly switched off. This is boring. This is a boring game. Surprised me from System 3. They've got other stuff coming out later, which will be better than this, but it's a bit of a stain on their otherwise what has been so far a reasonably good track record, isn't it? So.
Was it any better on the Amiga, do you know? Or was it?
I don't remember it on the Amiga, which tells me that it probably was not memorable. But you've got such strong contenders on the Amiga. You're not far off where you've got Turrican 2 on the Amiga. You've got to be doing something pretty amazing to be as good as those. So, no, it's the problem with this. I mean, even if you think Xenon 2 isn't far off on the Amiga, that's a better top-down shooter than anything that's on there. And the other side-scrolling, R-Type's better on the Amiga than any of the side-scrolling bits that I saw on the C64 version, so I can only imagine the Amiga versions are much better. And then, of course, you've got Project X coming out on the Amiga as well, of course, which kind of stomps its foot on them all, really, even though it is stupidly hard. So it's not 75%. It's not it's not 3/4 good. If anything, I would be putting this around the 50 to 60 mark.
Yeah,
it's not. It's graphics and its sound carry it, but nothing else is interesting in it. It's very average, if not a tad boring, and the ending is rubbish for the amount of guff you have to go through. So no. Sorry, Dominator, but you're, dominate off for me.
Yeah. Dominate on, dominate off. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like serviceable at best. If you've run out of shooters.
Yeah, but 10 quid's a lot for this. I've seen better budget games. So
that's what I mean. That Slayer, I think, was better and stuff like that. Yeah. And there was that other one where you had to collect the weird letters and you didn't know what they did and went on forever.
There's been a few that have just been a bit better than this in the budget. You could cut all your budget games together that are top-down and side-scrolling. It would still cost you less to buy those, and you'd have more fun than buying this one game that's trying to do all of those things. So
yeah, absolutely. And Iridium's budget by now as well. Yeah. Do you know he's not thinking he's a better shooter?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There we go. That's it. That's that. That's Dominator. That's your last game for this week. So what exactly did we look at this week? Well, we looked at the NewZealand Story, which we thought was all right. Perfectly decent, serviceable, and pretty decent conversion from the arcade that we didn't know. Tom and Jerry, which we did not like. You particularly did not like that.
No, I did not.
Hostages, which was pretty good. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. Another one of those weird ones that come along and you think, what's this? And you play it and you're like, that's actually quite interesting. Rallycross Sim, ruined by one stupid sort of mechanic. Blue Thunder shouldn't have really ever been re-released. It's pointless and stupid, and it should have stayed in 1984. And Dominator, which is just the worst thing you can put at a shooter, isn't it? Bit dull.
Yeah.
It's not as dull as Menace.
No.
No, 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 no. It's not as dull as that. But it is dull. Dullinator. And that's it. That's it for this week. What have we got next week to round off September? Well, we've got Rainbow Islands, the other cutesy platformer. See how that goes. Yeah. We've got Douglas Quaid. What's his name?
Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid in a space. I don't think it is to do with Dennis Quaid. Might be. Who knows?
No.
I think we've got another shooter, Gemini Wings. I think that's another shooter.
Yeah, that's another shooter. It is,
And then we have our trip to Hollywood, the second half of next week, where we play Red Heat, The Running Man, and License to Kill. All that and more. Well, all that and more. Let's see what else comes out next week. That's what we're looking at. So, yeah, if you want to support the podcast, you can do that. I'll say it here at the end. You can do that if you wish to join us. At the moment, everyone's playing Citadel to see what high scores they can get. But you can do that. Come and join us. If you want to join us, that's patreon.com/zapped to the past. And you can get the episodes advert free and early on a Friday evening rather than the Monday morning. You can have that. It costs probably about the price of a sandwich these days. And you can join us there, like I said, patreon.com/zapped to the past. You can ask us questions for Ask the Podcast. And you can also get involved. We're coming towards the end of the year, so we'll be asking our patrons to give us their highlights and lowlights of 1989. If you want to be involved in that, get on there. We'll be happy to air your views. Otherwise, you can buy us a coffee or something, whatever it is, at ko-fi.com/zapped to the past, or tweet, join in, give us a message. It's all good. I think that's about it for this week, first half of September. You got anything you wish to add, Graham?
No. I mean, that's been an interesting September, I guess, like you say. But let's see what else is coming down the pipe.
Indeed. All right. So I think on that note, we will go. We'll leave you the rest of your day. Hope you have a good week, and we will see you again next week. And as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And we have been Zapped to the Past, and we'll see you again, as I said, next week. I can't say it enough. Next week. We're back next week. Next week. Bye. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.